John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right, Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway, and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
It was a fairy tale. No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-levels. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it. Because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again. But of course, everyone then presumed because she'd won a Grand Slam that she was going to be a top 10 player. And yet she wasn't even in the top 100. And you've got to give her time to develop her game.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour. And Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series, and now he's packing his bags.
The Lions next face the Queensland Reds, live on talkSPORT, 11 a.m. UK time on Wednesday. A few Wallabies will be involved, but most will be rested, including flanker Fraser McWright. And Gordon Darcy says, from the Wallabies' perspective, that's fair enough.
If Australia win the series, they will say, well, we did what was necessary to win the tour, because really that's all that matters. 2005 we won nearly all the midweek matches, but ultimately lost the series, and the same in 2009 down in South Africa. So ultimately, it's all about those three matches.
There's more on talksport.com.
This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT. Where this afternoon, Andy, please tell us what's coming up.
I think I said, where's my throat things on it.
Oh, okay. I don't think it did.
Oh, I think I heard it in my headphones. Coming up over the next 3 hours, Nick Kyrgios joins us as Wimbledon gets underway. We'll talk transfers and soaring temperatures with our man at the Club World Cup. And Olympic gold medalist Tom Dean offers us free swimming lessons.
Yeah, free swimming lessons from Tom Dean. Not so bad. We're also interested in those things that were all about the timing. Big gaps between sporting events have just entered the session, and Danny Kelly on a huge transfer window shock in the League of Ireland.
There's all this, plus we'll get more fallout from the Lions opener and England women's final warm-up game, and we'll go backstage at Silverstone ahead of this weekend's British Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise, I was doing a bit of research for our guest today. I mean, it is it's like a festival now, isn't it? Sam Fender, Fatboy Slim, we've got all these music acts on in the evening, so anyway, we'll be going backstage, as we said, at Silverstone. The countdown to the British Grand Prix, which there's a pretty good chance of a British winner, but possibly not Lewis this time.
No.
Anyway, it is 5 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, Paul. Now, 6 games have been disrupted by the weather. Players have had to come off for the weather in the club. It's like cricket. It's ridiculous.
A bit,
Honestly.
Getting booed. The referee gets his light meter out.
Farce on Saturday night. That was
But it was handy for you.
World Cup.
You were able to watch Meet the Fockers.
I watched a whole movie in between the last 5. But I mean, to go off for surely they could have stayed on for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you always think to yourself, they get the players off quick, but what about the fans? Oh, don't worry about them getting struck by lightning. But I think they do actually.
Because the under-21 game went to extra time. And the whole show went on. Actually, if you press the button on your screen, it said, it didn't say under 21 the final was on. It said Meet the Fockers was on. And I thought, that's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Blimey, yeah.
Honestly, loads of letters in the press today congratulating the under 21s, but none of the letters can do it without using it as a stick to beat the senior team with it. It's pathetic. Can't you just congratulate them for what they did and say, oh, that'll show the old one? You know, saying, oh God, or let's replace all the seniors with them.
I had this horrible feeling. I knew you'd switched over to Chelsea halfway through the under 21 game.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And it could have been 5-0 by the time the Germans scored.
I saw the highlights at half time.
You just had this horrible feeling it was going to end up being extra time and losing to pens, but not at all. The fellas did brilliantly. Henry Winder, we may catch up with Henry later on. He was there for the tournament. But the way they played, real front foot, aggressive, always looking to go forward. There was no little sideways passes. No, everybody wanted the ball all the time. It was really refreshing the way they played.
What's interesting about this is that they grew into the tournament. They started off quite slowly and then they finished brilliantly.
Yeah.
And you do wonder with Carsley, he started a bit slowly as the England manager when he had the chance as the interim. But you wonder what might have happened if he'd been persevered with, because he's done a pretty good job, hasn't he? You've got to say that.
Did you see he did that, Jose? Normally people take their medals off the second they get them when they lose a game. He took his off straight away. They gave him his medal for winning coach, and he shook hands with everybody and smiled. Off came the medal straight away. He's really not a man who likes a lot of spotlight on him, is he?
No,
he was like, not about me, it's about the lads.
It's strange.
So, really. I mean, it's a nice trait, really, but yeah, he came off straight away.
I'm going to sneeze. I watched a bit.
Bless you, Andy.
Bless you. Old hay fever. I watched a bit of PSG versus Inter. Talk about not a fair fight. Honestly, 5 of Inter Miami's players were over 36. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's mad. They shouldn't even have been.
I only saw highlights. How did he look, Messi, overall?
Old.
Right, okay, fair enough. Well, he has for a while, but he still won a World Cup doing that, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he tried to make a counter-attacking run at one point, and he was completely finished. That's not really ideal. The commentator, they said, Kvaratskhelia had the fullback on absolute toast. I thought, surely it's absolutely had the fullback on toast. What's absolute toast?
It's basically it's toast soaked in vodka. I think that's possibly what it is.
And LeBron James had till yesterday to decide on a new $52.6 million contract. Oh, that must have been a tough decision, wasn't it? Oh, should I carry on playing? Doesn't matter how I play, but I get $50 million. Or should I retire? Oh, I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. I think he's going to keep going, is he? Great news for Jonathan Rowe. Apart from scoring the winning goal for England in the under-21 game, he's got 3 Wagamamas.
Really?
But not for life. Just for the rest of the year, once a month. I thought, he could have done a bit more than that.
That's not much.
It's not quite a Nando's black card, is it?
Not really. I mean,
fair play to him, though. They said, we'll gift the player who scores the winning goal a firecracker chicken on us each month until the end of the year.
So it's about
giving them £5
or £9, isn't it? The firecracker chicken.
Is it maybe
9, 10 or 12 quid? So that's all of about 60 quid's worth. What a tremendous price!
But fair play to Wagamamas, because I've just given them a mention on national radio.
Well worth the 60 quid it's going to cost them. Tremendous.
Well done, well done to them. Yeah. They've eaten a lot. I mean, I would have thought firecrackers for life, wouldn't you? Hashtag firecrackers for life for Jonathan.
What's he done? I thought he was a great train driver for them to transport. Not that.
Don't firecrackers for life. Of course not.
There's a lot of stuff around tennis. I decided I like all the stuff around tennis.
You like the strawberries?
I like the strawberries. I like the whole Wimbledon. I like the tradition. I just can't stand the tennis. It's just it doesn't chime with me. But I tell you what,
else just watch all the build-up. Watch all the colour. See if Henman Hill and all that. Just don't watch the tennis.
No, it says here strawberries could get twice their shelf life with a new edible coating.
Yeah,
it's good news for fans of the Wimbledon favourite as the tennis tournament starts today. You think, well, they don't care. People who are buying strawberries at Wimbledon about the shelf life, they're eating them straight away. They're not taking them home and keeping them for 3 weeks. You just link any story about strawberries with Wimbledon.
Well, it's been hot, hasn't it, Andy? Breaking news.
Yes, thank you.
It has been. It has been hot, and
thank you, John Kennedy.
Our producer today was telling us that her house, her dad's having aircon fitted.
Yes.
Wednesday. When can you come? We can come Wednesday.
Yeah, of course.
It's dropping about 15 degrees and it's going to rain. Isn't it? So, well done. It's all about the timing, isn't it?
It is.
We'd like some stories, really, that are all about the timing. And with Wimbledon upon us, I was trying to think about I've only ever been to Wimbledon once. I did that thing, I just went with a couple of mates. And it was that thing we thought would be a bit of an adventure. Getting there at I was about, 19, 20. Just get there like sort of 5 in the morning, whatever, and queue up.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I did get to see Buster Mottram play. So there's the last time. There's one for the teenagers. So I thought, Buster Mottram, how's he getting on now, Buster Mottram? And I looked him up, Andy.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, Buster Mottram is 70 years old.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
He was a boy wonder when I went along.
I thought he was about... I don't know, 45.
I didn't realise he was older than me.
I know.
He was a great British hope. He was UK #1. And, I mean, I don't think he was much of a grass court player. It wasn't really his thing, but still I went along and saw. But someone you think, when was the last time? I mean, you think, hang on, oh yeah, I like Wimbledon. When was the last time I went? Yeah, 1946. Fred Perry I went and saw. So there's been long gaps between your sporting visits. Maybe you haven't been to Silverstone since Sterling Moss was there. Let us know. talkSPORT.com, text 81089, tweet TSH and J 03717223344. Or as we said, all about the timing with our producer having aircon fitted just at the end of the heat wave. Just when you need it.
You know, when we went down to a racetrack and you drove in the car, I didn't fancy it. You got
it was one of those banked.
Was that Silverstone?
No, it wasn't. No,
was that Brands Hatch?
No. It was a banked track. What's it called? Oh, it'll come back to me. It's sort of Northampton.
Snetterton.
No, it's Northamptonshire way. All the motorsport heads or the petrol heads will know. Okay. Rockingham. Top work there by James. It was Rockingham.
Oh, Rockingham, okay.
And you wouldn't get in the car. I went round in one of the cars.
Looked too risky to me.
I was picking bits of tyre out my mouth for about a week afterwards because there's obviously no windows in them. And so off we went round the track at full tilt. And
I suppose it was quite exciting.
It was brilliant. Yeah, it was fantastic. Exhilarating, but you didn't fancy it, did you?
No, not really.
But no, that was good. Anything else, Andy?
It was very interesting. I gave up at half-time at the PSG Inter game.
Right.
But I thought I'll just check the outright odds because I've got a little bet on PSG to win the whole thing.
Okay.
And
not Chelsea.
No. Oh, come on. They've done very well, but they're not going to win it.
Why not?
Because they're better teams in it.
You got Palmeiras. You're playing Esteval on Friday, aren't you? Your lad.
I was thinking about that. If Palmeiras win, I want it to be 3-0 and Esteval to get a hat trick.
Yeah.
And you don't want him to be rubbish, do you? That'd be no good.
No.
Excuse me. So I gave up at half-time, but
sure.
I thought I'd check out the outrights. And at half-time of a game that Inter...
That'd be a good name for a band, wouldn't it? But they had Glastonbury.
They were, the outrights.
That would be a good, wouldn't it? There must have been a band called the Outrights. I'll ask Danny Kelly later on.
He'll know. Anyway, at half-time of a game that...
type band, wouldn't they?
At half-time of a game where they were 4-0 down, Inter Miami were 1,000 to 1. In the outrights, I mean, they could be 1,000,000 to 1. They're not going to win the tournament from 4-0 down at half time against PSG. So I didn't put anything on it. I did put £1 on 8-0 though. It didn't happen at half time.
Oh, okay.
I thought, well,
sorry, you slightly lost me. I've gone down an outrights rabbit hole. Australian hardcore band returns. It said this was in 2022. The Outrights. The Outrights.
What's the betting on that?
Formed in 1994 in Fort Lauderdale. I'm reading about now. That's like the Outrights, Andy. So more than one band called the Outrights. If you got any other sporting terms you think can make a good band name, then where'd that come from? talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH and J 03717
the stumbling batter shields.
They quite folky. That's quite folky, isn't it? It's like the Travelling Wilburys tribute act, isn't it, really?
They're not great.
Any other sporting terms you think would make a good band name? Go on, let's throw that into the mix. talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH and J 03717223344. Nick Kyrgios is going to join us for a chat. A man who'd love to be at Wimbledon, barring injuries. Had injury issues last couple of years. Of course, he was a finalist in 2022, wasn't he? So we'll have a chat with Nick, see what he makes of it this year. No line judges. They're all unemployed. It's all AI now.
I know.
It's a shame because Nick used to like to have a row with him now and again.
That's true. You can't have
a go at a machine.
That's absolutely right. But I do
go at AI. It's always going to have the last word.
We'll talk about him later. But there's one particular umpire that's very cruel that he's been replaced.
Who's that?
It would have been Charles Faulkner. It would have been his 50th year.
Oh.
And he sort of begged them for like a job in anything, you know.
They wouldn't give him one.
No. So he's not going to get his
even selling strawberries.
I know. I think it's really off. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Poor thing to have done.
Danny Kelly joins us, his League of Ireland roundup. Got some interesting stories. We'll talk a bit of Keith Andrews. He says there's Brighton have picked up another superstar from the world of Irish football. They've got previous with that. With
I
Evan
can't wait
Ferguson.
to buy him.
Yeah, Chelsea will be buying him soon for 80 million quid. But before
263 million. You're right what you said.
You could have paid for the Amex. I think you have paid for the Amex.
Paid for it.
Indirectly. And Gareth A. Davis is going to kick us off because it is on the fight that we weren't particularly keen on, and I believe Gareth wasn't either. It is Eubank Ben 2.
I know. It was a great fight. So we're probably going to watch it again.
We probably are.
We shouldn't, but we will.
I'd rather it wasn't on, but if it is on, I will probably watch it. Anyway, we'll talk to Gareth in a moment about that. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT to get in touch on whatever the agenda is or whatever you want to talk about today. talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH&J 03717 223344. We're here with our good friends at Tool Station. Next stop, Tool Station. before we talk boxing with Gareth A. Davis and Eubank Ben 2, let's head to Wimbledon. First time in our show. Catch up with what's going on with Lisa O'Sullivan. Hi, Lisa.
Hiya, the sun is shining. The bucket hats are out on centre court, ready for the arrival of Carlos Alcaraz. He's taking on Fabio Fognini in the first match, which will be underway in around about 10 minutes' time, or rather, they'll be on court in around 10 minutes' time. And as you say, the court's very empty these days because there are around 200 people fewer in the grounds, with the chair umpires, the main officials now on the court. They've got one assistant with them, but no linesmen or officials around the side of the court. Great day already for World 51 Sunny Cartel. The British women's number 3 has dumped out the former French Open champion Yelena Ostapenko 7-5, 2-6, 6-2. She's going to play Victoria Tomova, who came through after two-time runner-up Ons Jabeur was forced to retire through injury. Taking a look around the courts, Cam Norris just taken the first set against the former semi-finalist Roberto Bautista Agut of Spain. And having come through qualifying world 719, Oliver Tarvit is on the cusp. In fact, he has match point against Leandro Riedi of Switzerland, which will take him into the second round. And usually that would mean a cheque for £99,000, but he won't be getting a penny because he is still a student in the United States.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Lisa. We read that last week. Wouldn't get any prize money. Yeah, he's got 3 match points, so he's looking pretty good at the moment. Anyway, let's talk boxing, and it's on. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, 20th of September. In the aftermath of the first fight and the fallout from it, with Chris Eubank Jr. being hospitalised for a couple of days with dehydration, we spoke to Gareth A. Davis, Fight Night presenter and Telegraph boxing writer. And I think none of us had the stomach for it, but it's on, and Gareth joins us now. Hi, Gareth.
Afternoon, gents. How are you, broadcast legends?
Not too bad, thank you, Gareth. It's as I was just saying, now it's on, I will probably watch it, but I kind of wish it wasn't happening for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, if you call it that, is that it was certainly the British fight of the year, if not one of the world fights of the year so far. Incredible action for 12 rounds, an incredible build-up, the drama of the night with Christopher Eubank Sr. turning up, of course, making the ring walk with his son at the 11th hour, and all the drama that's gone behind that egg gate, the extension of the fight because of the drugs cases for Conor Benn over 2.5 years. So, you know, it was a fight that was 2.5 years in the making, and it didn't disappoint. An amazing atmosphere on the night, being there live for talkSPORT, of course, with the team. It was an incredible experience. It's one of the best atmospheres and events I've ever witnessed. But it did feel like it was one and done, like we'd had the nostalgia, that we had the event, we had the drama, as we can see there unfolding, all the pushing and shoving and all that kind of stuff that went on with Eggate. But unfortunately, this is a business, and because it garnered so many eyes, because Turki Al-Sheikh wants to invest in it as another Ring magazine event, he's got the money to do it. The guys will be handsomely paid, so we will see it again. And I think you both said just before the break, or just before I came on air, you know, you don't necessarily want to see it. It feels like one and done, but we'll all watch it again.
I'm just going to just something that one of your fellow boxing scribes, Wally Downs Jr., said in The Sun today. He said, on the basis of their 50-50 barnstormer, neither fighter looks capable of winning a world title, so another pantomime cash grab looks the wise and entertaining choice. I find myself generally...
Well, it was also... Yeah, I mean, you can say that about it. I mean, I don't think it was a pantomime cash grab. I think it was an incredibly entertaining fight at the time. I think what I do say, and what I did write, is that there are reservations about the weight cut that Eubank Jr. has to make and the rehydration clause that's involved, that's caught him up in trouble, of course, with the Boxing Board of Control over showing himself in a sauna suit, sweating out those last few pounds that he never really made, and had to pay a £375,000 fine to Conor Benn over because he didn't make it by Cadbury's cream egg. But the thing, and he's also fined $100,000 for the egg slap as well, and he's up in front of the board now because of flagrantly showing himself in a sauna suit. Saunas and sauna suits are against the rules from the Boxing Board of Control. But I mean, a pantomime maybe in a sense, but I think it really did deliver. I think it delivered in terms of what people enjoyed in the mainstream. At the end of the day, it is sport and it is entertainment. And if both are going to make well out of it, then perhaps they don't mind, or certainly Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't mind, because he may well get, if he wins, get a fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez here some point next year, when Alvarez maybe fights a 10th Brit, if it's not Hamza Sheeraz, if he beats Edgar Berlanga in a week and a half's time.
Is there anything they can do about the dehydration clause situation? Because the one reservation you have is you don't want these fighters to be hurt.
Can you see the could you see the weights being tweaked on that basis slightly from the first fight?
Do I think they will? No. Should they? Definitely yes. But that comes down to Eddie Hearn, Ben Shalom, if he's still promoting Chris Eubank. Obviously, Eddie Hearn will try and get as many advantages for his man Conor Benn, who's coming up 2 weight divisions, to face Chris Eubank as he can, as he is. I mean, I agree. I think the weight draining is the biggest worry in the whole of this matchup, if you like, because Eubank was in hospital for 36 hours after the event because he did suffer chronic dehydration. He wasn't sweating during the fight. He did take too much out of himself. And I think there should be concerns and reservations about it. I think a mandate should go out from everyone involved in this, saying, and the Boxing Board of Control no less as well, saying, look, we're not going to allow him to be so weight drained. It's the most dangerous thing for a boxer. Obviously, they're being punched, so it's dangerous. But draining weight is very dangerous for the brain, for the fluids around the skull and the membrane around the brain. So, it's something they do need to look at very carefully, because God forbid they go into this again and something does happen to Eubank this time. He's not getting any younger, and there are dangers involved.
Just finally, Gareth, venue-wise, I don't know if it's going to be another football ground. Could it be Tottenham again? Could it be Wembley? They feel like they could probably sell even more tickets than they did at Spurs. What's the likely thing that's going to happen there?
Well, I did look into it. Obviously, it's September the 20th. As you say, the venue isn't announced yet, but I think it might be at your mighty ground. I understand Spurs aren't playing at home on that Saturday, September the 20th. It's a magnificent place to be in the centre of it. It must be electrifying being a footballer playing in the centre of that park. It's so extraordinary. I think that's the favourite.
Was it electrifying last season?
Sorry?
Was it electrifying?
Yeah, not very electrifying.
Yeah, it wasn't electrifying. No, not generally. Yeah.
I'll let you get your little Chelsea dig in there on
Sorry,
as always. But it is an amazing venue, and we've had a Fury Chisora fight there. We've had a Joshua Usyk fight there. We've had this one there now. It's an amazing place to host football matches as well as boxing matches, of course. But it's just a difficult place to get away from after the event when the stations are shut. But I assume it will be the favourite ground or the favourite stadium to take the fight.
Yeah, they're away at Brighton. They're actually away on the 13th, so they have plenty of prep time. They're at West Ham, but they would be at home the following week. You think about the damage it could do to the pitch, but anyway, we shall see. Gareth, are you going to go have a little bit of lunch with Frank Warren now, I understand? So
I am. We've got a media lunch with Frank Warren here at Milo's in Pall Mall, and we'll catch up with him on all the latest stuff. Obviously, there's big things coming in 2.5 weeks' time when Daniel Dubois faces Alexander Usyk, and that'll be centre of the talks this lunchtime with Frank. And with lunches that generally go on to about 5 o'clock.
Oh, it could be worse. The tough life you have. You're back on Saturday with Fight Night?
I'm actually at Bare Knuckle in Bolton. It is live on the talkSPORT YouTube channel. BKB from Bolton. Callum Skane, a Welshman's trying to fight and win a world title against Harry Gigliotti from New Jersey. So I'm up there doing that actually on Saturday night. I won't be in the studio.
Okay.
But there's also, of course, a massive fight, Harlem Eubank and Jack Catterall in Manchester as well on Saturday night, and that's one to watch out for as well.
Brilliant. Good stuff. All the best, Gareth. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, broadcast legends.
There we are. There's Gareth A. Davis. Enjoy your lunch, as a man once said.
Bare knuckle fighting. Have you seen Powers?
Well, do you want one, do you?
No. Have you seen...
That seems... Only after all these years, I had no idea.
I definitely wouldn't.
We'll do it now. We've got cameras in this studio.
Have you seen power slapping? Have you seen this sport?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it before, It's big in Russia, isn't it?
What a mad sport.
It's slapsies, isn't it? It's basically slapsies.
Yeah, but blimey, some of them. I mean, if you get it right...
I was reading at the weekend, I will talk about this maybe a little bit later on and get a guest on. They just, in Australia, they're doing this game which is just hard hits. Imagine just completely no holds barred hits, one-on-one
Oh, yeah,
hits.
no, I've seen this as well. It's very similar. Oh, no, it's a terrible idea.
So just at the time they're trying to phase it out of every other sport, they've turned it into a sport. Anyway, maybe we'll come back to that. Nick Kyrgios joins us for a chat very shortly. Yeah. And we'll be chatting about Wimbledon, of course, and lots more besides.
Agony for the Eagles continues. UEFA have postponed the ruling over Palace's participation in next season's Europa League. The matter of breaching multi-club ownership rules is still being looked into due to John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right, Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-levels. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it, because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour, and Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series, and now he's packing his bags.
There's more on talkSPORT.com.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. I was saying the last time I was at Wimbledon, Buster Mottram was the boy wonder of British tennis, so he's now 70. This comes from Andy in Cannock. I remember when Buster was serving at Wimbledon, the ball went the full distance of the court and hit the cloth netting without touching the ground. My dad at the time was distraught. He was UK #1. It's like bowling a beamer.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're telling us about those long gaps between sporting events. Someone who wished he was at Wimbledon this week, but injury has robbed him of that, although it does allow us here on talkSPORT to get his expert thoughts on what's unfolding, is Nick Kyrgios. Hiya, Nick.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Now it gets underway. Is there a bit of a pang? I mean, it must be very frustrating for you.
Yeah, definitely. Wimbledon's been such a special tournament for me, but even being around it, I can feel the energy staying right in Wimbledon Village. You can definitely feel the buzz, and I'm just glad to be here again and talking to you guys about the tennis and something that's very special to me. So, yeah, I'm still very excited.
Now, we had a good start from a British point of view. Oliver Tarvit, 719th in the world, has just won his first game. Lisa O'Sullivan just telling us that as he's an amateur, he's still at uni in the States, he can't claim any prize money. I think it was just shy of 100 grand he would have made today. It does feel a little bit unfair. Andy making the point that maybe it could be held in trust if they've got an issue with it. Now, it does seem a bit strange. Should they be changing the rules, you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a rule that's been around for a while, and I think we've seen a couple great college players come through at a Grand Slam at an early age. So, yeah, I'm not too sure the ruling of it. Obviously, I didn't go down the college route, but someone that's obviously, he plays the level, and if he's winning already Grand Slam matches, I think he's going to have to probably look to get out of that program and try and take it on himself to keep believing and have these results. But, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not too sure how they can change that rule, but it's a lot of money.
They reckon that today's the hottest first day ever, Nick, but the players are used to it, aren't they? I mean, somehow they manage to play in like Australia and places like that for 5 hours. I don't know how you do it, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wimbledon's probably the coolest of all 4 Grand Slams. I mean, Australian Open can get extremely hot, US Open as well. But look, I'm surprised how good the weather has actually been the last couple of days. It's been phenomenal, and hopefully it can stay like this. It's good for the crowd. Obviously, a lot of Pims jugs get drunk as well. So, I'm looking forward to the weather staying like this.
I mean, Ons Jabeur, obviously not as high in the rankings as she was a while back, but she pulled out of her game a little bit earlier on. I mean, she had a sort of cold towel on her neck. She really did seem to be struggling, and she dipped out of her first round match when she was setting a breakdown. So, I mean, that sounds like that was probably weather related. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is hot out there, and obviously in the heat of the moment with the pressure and all the external pressures of going out there, especially Ons Jabeur, she's been a 2-time finalist here. She obviously puts a lot of pressure on herself to do well at this event, and then obviously things didn't go great, and obviously pulling out in the heat, it's not easy out there. So hopefully she gets better, but I mean, I understand that she wants to win this event so bad, and she's come up short twice, so it's not easy to recover from that.
Now, a little game that British tennis fans face, watching the British players sort of drop over the first 2 or 3 days. But this time around, the most since 1984, 23 Brits. We just said Tarvit's come through. And I don't know, maybe in Draper, a real contender. What do you think?
Definitely. I think Draper's definitely a contender for Wimbledon and pretty much any tournament he plays. He's a great athlete, big left-hander, super professional. I think that, British tennis right now is an incredible form. You got a lot of good players, a lot of depth, and same can be said about the Aussie tennis. I think Aussie and British tennis right now, it's an exciting time, and you've got a genuine contender in Draper. And I'm excited for him because, since Andy Murray, you've generally got a threat that can win Grand Slams now, and he's got a great team around him as well. So I'm excited for you guys.
Can you look beyond Sinner and Alcaraz though for the final? They do look nailed on, sort of thing.
Yeah, look, I think Sinner and Alcaraz are, head and shoulders above the rest of the field. In my opinion, you look at that French Open final, and there were shades of Federer and Nadal. Some of the finals that the greatest of all time have played. Those two are so young, and I think they're going to carry the sport for a long, long time. But look, can you ever count out Djokovic? I'm not too sure. Every time I feel like he's finished kind of thing, he always surprises us. So I think Sinner and Alcaraz are probably the favourites, but Draper and Djokovic would be just behind.
That was quite tough listening to Dan Evans the other day. Very emotional, and talking about the fact he feels like he's let people down. He dropped out the top 200. He was on a bad run of games, and he's given British tennis fans some great times over the years.
In the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it must be. Oh, look, you've been there. You know what it's like. If you go for a run of form and it's not happening, it must get inside your head. I did feel for him, really.
Yeah, look, Dan has always been a good mate of mine. When I was first on tour, he took me under his wing, and he was always very caring. So to see him get emotional, and he's in the later stages of his career as well, it's tough to see, because tennis is such a tough sport, week in, week out. Most weeks you are losing. You experience a loss, and you're paying for your team, you're paying for your travel. So I can understand how much it weighs heavy on a player. You really do beat yourself down, but as you said, Dan's always given us some great tennis. He's an old school type of player. There's not many players like him. Slice backhand, really that old school brand of tennis. So to see him have some wins the last couple of weeks has been good. But look, you can see how much it means to him. And I think that's been a question whether Dan Evans really loves the sport. And I think that's all answered, after that press conference. You can see how much it means to him and see how much he wants to do well for British tennis and just for himself and his family and friends. So, that shows the value of him, and I hope it goes well for him.
Will you miss the human line judges?
I will. I actually had a conversation about this yesterday. It was like, I think Wimbledon should never change any rule. I think it should be the only tournament that holds every tradition that ever started in tennis. I think every other week can have electronic line calling, but I wish Wimbledon just kept it the same. And it's been 148 years with human line calls. I think they could have got to 150 and done like a big anniversary change or something. But look, I think personally it would have been cool to have the traditions of tennis never change at Wimbledon. But the tennis world's not going to listen to me. So
you can't have a row with AI either. There's no interaction, is there?
Exactly, that's what I said. Look at John McEnroe, for instance, right? You cannot be serious. That literally, he made his whole living off that one line. He was in movies. People still talking about it to this day. So, myself, some of the characters of the sport are not going to have too many arguments anymore, which sucks, because I really enjoyed it. I did.
On the women's front, there's been a lot of talk about Coco Gauff-Sabalenka final, but there's others in the frame. Vondrousova, people have been tipping up. How do you see that, Nick?
Yeah, look, she's won the event before, and she's very crafty on this surface, and she's a player that, if she catches some confidence, she's very streaky. She's the type of player that could have 3 months of bad tennis and then start lighting it up one week and then win Wimbledon. So she's always one to watch. But again, Coco Gauff's starting to find her confidence. She's got a couple big titles under her belt now. Hard to really go past Sabalenka or Gauff, I think. Swiatek does struggle at Wimbledon, but I could see her, obviously moving to the second week. But Vondrousova, as you said, she's a dangerous one for sure.
And what are your other sporting loves beyond tennis? Are there other sports that you follow, Nick?
Yeah, look, I wear the Boston Celtics hat.
Oh yes.
I love basketball, love football. Although my Tottenham Hotspur gone through a lot. We did win a cup, but then we got rid of Ange, which sucks, because I'm an Australian. I love to see Australians doing well. And the thing I love about Ange is, he trusts his instinct. He's all out attack, doesn't play much defense, and kind of like my tennis. So, unfortunately, he left. But I follow Tottenham as well. I'm
a Spurs fan as well. It kind of felt inevitable. It was very hard to divorce what happened in the final from what happened throughout the season, wasn't it? Really, it was quite hard to part. Well, a season and a half of pretty bad Premier League results.
Yeah, look, we were criticised for not winning a lot, and then we did win some silverware. So, look, you got to take the good and the bad, but ultimately, they parted ways. But obviously, all the best for him. Any Australia that makes it out of Australia and makes it onto the big stage like Ange did, I wish him all the best. But hopefully, we can still be on the way up. Good stuff, Nick. Well, I'm sure we'll catch up with you later in Wimbledon. Thanks very much. All the best. Sounds good. See you guys soon. There we are. This Nick Kyrgios there, former Wimbledon finalist back in 2022 and sadly injured this year, but it does allow us to have a chat with him throughout the tournament here on talkSPORT. We're going to talk a bit of Irish football. Every week, Danny Kelly joins us for a League of Ireland roundup. But it's more than that. He unearths some real sort of great little stories. We're going to talk about Keith Andrews today. We're going to talk about Brighton spotting another gem in the League of Ireland. And, could Ireland actually be the beneficiaries of England winning the Under-21 Championship? Oh, interesting. So that's all to come with Danny. We asked you about band names. I'll tell you what, we'll keep our powder dry. Sporting band names. Danny will, I'm sure, have a few of those along the way. We're here with our very good friends at Tool Station. Stay one step ahead, whatever the job. Next stop, Tool Station.
Well, we chat to Danny Kelly. Let's check in once again at Wimbledon with Lisa O'Sullivan.
Just watching Cam Norrie, who's taking on Roberto Bautista Agut of Spain, the man who had to postpone his stag do when he got through to the semi-finals, much to his amazement. The Spaniards just taken the second set, so they are 1 apiece going into the third. We've seen Sonny Cartel go through in the women's draw, and also Oliver Tarvit, who will play the winner of the match on centre court. So Carlos Alcaraz taking on Fabio Fognini right in the early exchanges there. It is 1 game apiece.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Andy mentioned earlier on he was having a little flutter on the Club World Cup. He checked the Outrights. I thought, the Outrights, what a good name for a band.
Yes, they were.
Shoegazery type band. Well, I found out there were 2 bands called the Outrights. One was sort of a hardcore death metal type band, and the other one was a band from Florida. You've been suggesting some others. The Double Carpets.
John Merker.
Yeah, all dressed in deerstalker hats and capes, says Ray from Chepstow. What about this? A pre-Jim Morrison band called the Early Doors. I don't think there was a Doors before Jim Morrison. Just play stuff from the first album. You got enough hits on that.
Early Doors.
What about VAR-EM? Oh, that came from Rob P, by the way. VAR-EM says the Taffy Mackem. Not a bad idea.
That's good, yeah. VAR-EM.
Joining us now, he'd probably have a million of his own. Danny Kelly. Hi, Dan.
Good afternoon, everybody. There's already a band who plays in Sherlock Holmes Deerstalkers. Billy Childish's The Headcoats already wear Deerstalkers. So that's done. Okay. That part is done.
It's all been done. Come on.
There's nothing new under the sun, really. Is there? Yeah.
As we're about to prove over the next 15 minutes.
Yes.
I did enjoy the photos you put on X yesterday of you at Glastonbury. Young you.
What year was this, Danny? Who was on Hawkwind?
That was 89.
All right.
I'm trying to think. I think we spent a lot of time with the Hot House Flowers, I seem to recall. Right. Andy, it's hard to imagine. At the time, I suppose the New Musical Express would have been just about the hippest newspaper in the world. Yet their editor looks like he's on holiday in the 1940s at Skegness. Incidentally, I'm wearing white socks and formal shoes there. I cannot remember the last time I owned a pair of formal shoes. I certainly don't remember those. Wow. Indeed, these days, if I'm going to a funeral, I think I'm dressing up if I wear wallabies, you know?
Let's talk about Keith Andrews. I'm sure they've been talking about that over in Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, interesting times, isn't it? Insofar as 2 weeks ago, there was no sort of Irish manager in the upper reaches of English football. Then we had Barry Murphy at Cardiff, and now, boom, suddenly, you could argue the appointment of Keith Andrews makes him the most important manager since, I guess, the retirement of Joe Kinnear. And he started, just to remind you, that he started at St Patrick's Athletic. He was coaching there in 2019 after his playing career came to an end. I can't help feeling, we hear all about Brentford's data, and they've gone to great lengths to talk about the very, very, very precise process that led them to Keith Andrews. There's a part of me that still thinks they just give the job to the person with the most luxurious hair.
Yeah.
Because if you think about Thomas Frank and now Keith's hair is unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. He's giving Arteta a run for his money with that hair.
Something to look out for here, though. I guess your talkSPORT's investigative journalist already all over this. He is great mates, Keith, with Damien Duff, who's just left his job in Shelbourne. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Damien pitch up there as well.
So you say it was a huge shock on the opening of the transfer window in Ireland?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I tease Paul. I give him these things to say to me, but I don't give him any details.
He doesn't.
The leading goal scorer in the League of Ireland is a man called Moses Dyer. He plays for Galway, and he is a New Zealander. He is the absolute epitome of a journeyman football. He's played 11 times for New Zealand, but he's played all over the world. I mean, all over the world, and seems to have found a home here in Ireland. 10 goals since he signed up there at the start of this season, making him the leading goal scorer. Something has happened. There was an inquiry made by another League of Ireland club, Derry City, who could we buy him? And it turned out he's got one of those release clauses. And sometimes the League of Ireland, which I say brilliantly marks itself as the best league in the world, gets a little reminder of its place in the pecking order, because Moses Dyer has been signed by a club in Cambodia.
Wow.
They are called Phnom Penh Crown. Even I have never heard of Phnom Penh Crown. And he's been offered 85 grand a year after tax plus a house, and he's gone.
Wow.
On Friday night, he said goodbye in the big Connacht derby between Galway and Sligo by getting himself red carded. So he's making sure he's getting out of here good and quick.
I'm sure in a sort of Irish football magazine they'll be doing a sort of Galway versus Phnom Penh. Matching what's the best place to live? I imagine it's probably cheaper to live in Phnom Penh, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Ireland's a pretty expensive country to live in, but if you're playing in Galway, I mean, the environs are pretty quickly out into the lakes and rivers and mountains of the west of Ireland. So perhaps there may be a quality of life downside, but Moses decided it's the Cambodia for him. I mean, extraordinary. Who's ever heard of any Cambodian footballers or anything? This is amazing. There we go.
So we're going to talk a bit about Sean McGrath's 100th
Sean
appearance.
McGrath. Yeah. Now, you remember the phrase "not your night, son"? Well, Friday night may have been made for Sean McGrath. Sean was making his 100th appearance for Kerry, the club in the League of Ireland, at Wexford, at their lovely situated you can tell by the name, Ferry Carrig Park. Nice. And it couldn't have been going better for Sean. On his 100th appearance for Kerry, Wexford went down to 10 men following a red card, and Sean scored, and this is in the league where goals are in very short supply, scored a first-half hat-trick. Hooray and hurrah. Somehow, though, he managed to end up on the wrong end of a 4-3 defeat. 10-man Wexford came back to win 4-3, leaving Sean with that feeling when you've got a pint in one hand because you scored the hat-trick, but somebody's picking your pocket on the other side, aren't they?
It's true.
Now, England won the Euros at the weekend, I'm sure you're aware, but you think the Republic of Ireland could be the ultimate beneficiaries, Dan?
It could be indeed. I've been making this list of people who are qualified for the Republic of Ireland if they actually chose to play for them, and they would win the World Cup. I mean that. They would win the World Cup. Jude Bellingham, Rice, Grealish, Harry Kane, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, of course he's qualified for the Republic of Ireland. His dad's actually Irish. He comes over here every summer to see his family in Galway. But we saw the under-21
He'll be going to Phnom Penh now, won't he?
He'll be straight off to Phnom Penh Crown. Don't worry about that. To see out his twilight days. So the European under-21 final was very good, and England won. They were great. It was fantastic. Harvey Elliott, definitely player of the tournament. The best player on the pitch in the final was Mainz's Paul Nabel. If you remember, he scored the second of Germany's goals, and then he nearly won it with that thunderbolt against the crossbar in the last second. Well, in the great fun afterwards in the press conference, Nabel was asked how much he's looking forward to getting a call up to the senior German squad. And he leant back in his chair and he said, "You're being very presumptuous." In German, "You're being very presumptuous. I might play for the Republic of Ireland. Wow. My granny is Irish."
Wow.
So Paul has already put the cat among the pigeons he was teasing the German journalist, but he is qualified to play for the Republic of Ireland as well. So if they annoy him enough, it could be another excellent player for Ireland's midfield.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
He did look very good. I wasn't quite too sure about Voltemada. I thought there was a touch of the Carsten Yankers about him, and it's
he's
not right.
Really that's the easier. I mean, that is a really good comparison to make. Although I suppose, winding it back a little bit, he's got more of the Peter Crouch about him because he's actually a decent footballer. But also an under-21 tournament bloke looked 45.
I know he did, didn't he? Yeah, and
there's no way that. I mean, just very.
For a bloke who's obviously about 18 stone and 6'6", he went down very easily quite a lot, didn't he? You notice that?
Yeah, he folded under pressure, didn't he? As Joe Pesci might say.
And Brighton, Andy's a big fan of Brighton. Andy in Hove tells us that actually, over the last 3 years, could have paid for 2 Amexes and our training ground, and that's without the Sanchez money. He's worked it all out. But look, you've got good players. But Brighton have found another possible gem in Ireland.
Yeah, they have. I mean, this lad has been very low key to me. Goalkeeper Michael Dyke. 18 years of age, because of course they can't go to Ireland these days because of the post-Brexit and just sign the 16 and 17-year-olds. They wait until Michael was 18. He's a goalkeeper. He's played for the youth groups for the Republic of Ireland. We're suddenly rich with goalkeepers all of a sudden. He's just signed a 2-year contract with Brighton, and given their record of turning these players into stars, I suppose the last one they got from the Republic would have been Evan Ferguson, just another one to look out for. He's called Michael Dyke, and he signed for 2 years for Brighton from the League of Ireland.
He's lost his way a bit, Ferguson. He wasn't a great loan at West Ham, so let's hope he comes back this season.
He seems prone to muscle injuries, and he's a big lad. And sometimes you worry about very, very thick-set players, how they're going to respond skeletally, if that's the correct word, it probably isn't, to the rigours of modern football. It's all about twisting and running, isn't it?
Yeah. Max suggests the Cow Corners as a band. That feels a bit pub rock. The Wrong-uns. There must have been some band in 1977, Leo, called The Wrong-uns. So thanks for all of those. Danny, you always suggest a bit of music. We spoke to Lisa, so we didn't get a chance to play. What are we going to play out with? Irish theme today?
Very currently really big in the biz, the Mary Wallopers.
Oh, yeah.
And they do a fantastically rousing version of the traditional song, The Bold O'Donoghue.
Okay, we'll bring you a bit of that. Go and check out the podcast for Trans Europe Express. I was listening to the guys last night on a late night dog walk, because you can't walk the dog early at the moment in this weather. So it's a good listen. The podcast is available now. Danny, we'll catch up with you next week.
Love that. Thank you very much. Bless you.
Agony for the Eagles continues. UEFA have postponed the ruling over Palace's participation in next season's Europa League. The matter of breaching multi-club ownership rules is still being looked into due to John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right, Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway, and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
It was a fairy tale. No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-level. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it, because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again. But of course, everyone then presumed, because she'd won a Grand Slam, that she was going to be a top 10 player, and yet she wasn't even in the top 100. And you've got to give her time to develop her game.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour, and Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series. And now he's packing his bags.
The Lions next face the Queensland Reds, live on talkSPORT 11 a.m. UK time on Wednesday. A few Wallabies will be involved, but most will be rested, including flanker Fraser McWright. And Gordon Darcy says, from the Wallabies' perspective, that's fair enough.
If Australia win the series, they will say, well, we did what was necessary to win the tour, because really that's all that matters. 2005 we won nearly all the midweek matches, but ultimately lost the series, and the same in 2009 down in South Africa. So ultimately, it's all about those three matches.
There's more on talksport.com.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, where Andy Brassel will be joining us to tell us more about these players that could be heading to the Premier League. Now, be honest, unless you're an ITK, do you know much about Adama Boyang, the 21-year-old Gambian that could be heading to Brentford or West Ham from Grasshoppers of Zurich? No, I didn't think you did. Or what about, did you know much about the young 21-year-old French international, Tiano Barry, who could be off to Everton from Villarreal? You probably did. Anyway, we'll find out more from Andy Brassel. He's right across. I think Sunderland done a bit of business today.
That's good.
Tom Dean's joining us for a chat. Rocky Clark, former Rugby World Cup winner, on the Lions at the weekend, and lots more besides. And the women's Lions. We're going to talk about that with Rocky as well.
Is there such a thing?
There is.
Oh, right.
I think they've got their first tour coming up in 2027, but it has been formed. So, yeah, we will chat about that. In the meantime, Andy, what you got from your extensive list of bits?
What have I got here? I've got this stuff about the Jeff Bezos wedding. Did you see this? I always like the numbers.
Were you there?
Unfortunately, I wasn't.
No,
I wasn't invited. But there was a £1.5 million booze bill after guests guzzled.
Of course they did.
Dom Perignon. Can't they just drink it? Why have they got to guzzle it?
Because it's a tabloid newspaper. And food-wise, did they chomp on, feast on, tuck into? They tuck into normally, people in a tabloid.
Definitely feast.
Although if you're Jeff Bezos, you tuck into it. It feels a bit Billy Bunter, that as a phrase, doesn't it? But did Jeff ever say that? Well, I've got back after a busy day making 15 million quid a minute, and I tucked into sausage and mash. Cow pie.
That's incredible, isn't it? The wedding was set to reach its grand finale with Saturday night.
Saturday? You're right. You're on the baby sham there, were you? Saturday.
I've been guzzling it.
I think you have been guzzling, haven't you?
During the break.
Yeah.
The wedding was set to reach its grand finale on Saturday night with a party at the Arsenale. Ooh, the Arsenale.
I'm not going there.
I'm definitely not going.
I wouldn't have been able to go, would I? I'd have to have sat outside.
Sorry, Jeff. Paul won't come in.
I couldn't. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Lauren. Come on. No, he's not. He won't come in.
It's terrible.
Come into the Arsenale.
Emma Raducanu.
Yeah.
She swapped her Porsche for a train back from Eastbourne.
That's not very. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Was that on Facebook Marketplace?
It's not even true.
For sale, Porsche will take train.
The Porsche she was given after a 2021 US Open win was taken back last year, so she didn't really swap it, did she? But this bit that I like, the tennis ace, 22. Carried her own bags as she journeyed to London. Oh, fantastic.
It takes it out of you, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Charlie Cresswell had a very good game the other day, didn't he, for England under-21s? He seems a good character.
Definitely.
He did a very good job. He was talking about growing up as an England fan. He said, I was brought up with England always being a massive part of my childhood. I'd go to the local pub and I'd be watching with all my mates, my dad's mates, and it would be a big deal. I got my dad's mates all, I've got my dad's mates all crying in the pub, and I'm sat there thinking, oh no. And I was thinking that about my kids. You know, we used to go and watch all these big England games, semi-finals and everything. We'd all go around someone's house, have a big barbecue. All the mums and dads had settled down, all the kids, you know, young kids all sitting there. And at the end of it, they just got all these disappointed parents. I wonder if it was quite scarring for them. Really. Yeah. They have to sort of sit there in the garden and watch it all fall apart. But anyway, Gareth managed to change a bit of that. He's at Wimbledon today. He's sitting next to Sir Gareth, next to Sir David Beckham.
Yeah, I couldn't work it out because he was in America yesterday, but you explained...
David Beckham was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You explained that he got a plane overnight and he probably went first class.
He didn't get a train. He didn't carry his own bags.
No, probably not. Well, not with his bad wrist.
He didn't. It's not quite a Phil Collins. He just got on a plane and got off it and went to Wimbledon,
Yeah. You'd imagine he had some sort of jet lag, though, wouldn't you? I suppose he slept overnight.
I mean, he's not in cattle class, is he? I imagine he's in first class. He's probably got a proper bed that he sleeps in.
It's true. Yeah.
Anything else?
I was telling you about that cricket. I can't get over this, actually.
This was a story and a half. Tell us more.
Warwickshire's second 11, chasing 514 against Glamorgan. Yeah. They got to 512 for 9, which is fairly incredible. They needed 2 to win.
With 1 wicket remaining.
Batsman at the other end on 125 not out.
And so the lad who comes in last...
Yeah, number 11. Yeah. He got bowled having a wild heave. He took that brainless. It's going to be the best
Get the batsman up the other end.
Incredible.
Do you know where the other batsman had come in? Where had he wasn't the opener, was he?
I think in middle order, but
he had his eye in.
125 not out.
Imagine that dressing room after. Imagine when they all sat down and all that. There was that silence, and they're all desperate to say, "What were you doing?
I know.
Why did you do that?"
Absolutely.
Do you think the first thing he would have been quiet? He would have said, "Sorry, lads."
Oh, he must
have gone with the "sorry, lads." I would think.
Really.
Yeah.
I did that in the game, actually.
If you've got one of those, if you've had a massive, whether if you're 5-0 down or 10-0 down in the game, you make it back to 10-9, and really you should be winning. You should be clutching victory from the jaws of defeat, but it doesn't work like that. So if you've got tales of that, much like Warwickshire 2s, 03717 223344, talksport.com, text 81089 or tweet to TSH in
I remember playing in a league game. I came out to bat and my son was 50 not out.
Right.
Yeah, he was at the other end and he said to me, just play straight, don't do anything first ball. Whammer.
Got caught, did you?
Caught, yeah.
Well done.
Went straight up in the air. Brilliant.
And what did he say to you? You can't say at this time of day.
I can't say. He wasn't impressed, really. I don't blame him.
And had you gone in at 11, had you?
Oh, yeah, no, always.
Always.
Firm number 11.
Andy Jacobs at 11.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eyesight.
Good.
Should have a quick mention for Wayne Larkins.
Yeah.
Great player. I watched a bit of him batting. I thought, you like to sort of remind yourself.
Yeah, I remember him
He
playing.
really was ahead of his time. He would have been a great T20 player, would have made a lot of money in this current era.
And he wouldn't have had to be a milkman.
No.
I mean, you can't imagine you can't imagine Harry Brook becoming a milkman.
No, not
post cricket, really, or even
unlikely.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the way it was then. Absolutely.
It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. We're going to be chatting to Andy Brassel very shortly, looking at some of the transfer stories from around Europe. Tammy Abraham's off to Turkey, where they're paying big money, as Max Bygraves used to say, in wages.
That's a good reference.
One of Charlie's 2 impressions. And it's not very good, actually.
Isn't it?
So anyway, before that, though, let's check in once again with Lisa O'Sullivan watching events unfold at Wimbledon.
All a bit low-key, it feels, on centre court at the moment as the crowds fan themselves to stay cool in the driving heat. It really is getting hotter and hotter out here. Fabio Fognini taking on Carlos Alcaraz, 3 games all in the first set. Over on court number 1, Aryna Sabalenka rattled through the first set, 6-1 against the talented Canadian qualifier, Carson Brandstein, who has battled back and is 5-4 up in the second on serve, though. Sabalenka serving in that one. Following that match, we will have Jacob Fernley of Britain taking on the teen sensation João Fonseca of Brazil, who absolutely loves Wimbledon and these conditions, and that will be followed by the all-British clash between Emma Raducanu and 17-year-old Nini Zhu.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Rocky Clark joining us for a chat a little bit later on, talking Lions. Tom Dean's going to be with us. We'll look back on England's women's big thumping win against Jamaica in their final pre-Euros friendly. We're going to be bringing you that, of course, all the women's games, all the England games, the Wales games in the last stages of the tournament, and lots of content from over in Switzerland. And we're off to Silverstone later on. We've got the British Grand Prix this weekend. And Stuart Pringle's a busy man, but he's found us 10 minutes for a chat. He's the CEO. And it's much more than just a race these days.
Oh, yeah.
It is huge. So we'll be chatting to him and talking transfers later in the show. But next, Andy Brassel takes us around Europe. We're here with our good friends at Toolstation, ready to help at over 580 stations nationwide. Next stop, Toolstation. A quick Danny Kelly League of Ireland Roundup update. Dan's been back in touch again. We mentioned Moses Dyer, who's gone from Galway to Phnom Penh Crown. And we were questioning...
My third team, actually.
You're a big fan, are you?
I am, yeah.
They play in a 50,000-seat stadium.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can understand maybe why he made the switch. Anyway, let's move on. All matters European football, including some news on some potential transfers, and marking your card on those, is Trans Europe Express's very own Andy Brassel. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good, thanks. Let's start with what's going on at Lyon. They've replaced John Textor as president, and we've still got no clearer picture at the moment until we get the Lyon appeal. And maybe you can give us the timescale on that, because that does sort of affect Palace fans, doesn't it? When are we expecting some sort of answer on that?
Well, they've got a week from Friday to get the appeal in, so they have to get it in before this Friday. They're clearly keen to do it as soon as possible. Now, clearly there's some financial due diligence to do in between now and then. John Textor hinted on Friday that he might step aside, given that it was obvious to anyone that he was the biggest block to the success of any potential appeal against the relegation to Ligue 2. So he's been replaced today by Michel Kang, who he sold the very successful Lyon women's team to and is a shareholder of the Eagle Football Group. And Michael Gerlinger is going to be her Director General, someone who really knows his way around European football, was at Bayern Munich for the best part of 20 years. So that's good news for Lyon. Now, I can understand why Palace fans are a little antsy. The decision hasn't been made yet, but I think the complexity of it is such. It's more about Lyon getting their ducks in a row at this point and UEFA getting their heads around that. Now, we know there's already an agreement between UEFA and Lyon that they can participate in the Europa League if they're allowed to stay up. Now, that's been framed slightly differently by UEFA than it has by Lyon. It's like, we've been allowed into the Europa League. And the way that UEFA have announced it is they've agreed to not be in the Europa League if they get relegated, which is like the same thing, but placed the other way round. So really, clearly, there's the thing as well with the Palace shares being sold and the fact that that's still got to go through a fit and proper persons test, which, I mean, that's not going to be completed before the start of the season. So we can almost put that to one side. What is clear is that the more distance that Lyon and Palace can get away from John Textor, the better it looks for both of them, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very different, though, to lone players playing against their parent clubs, which they're allowed to, aren't they, in Europe? So
yes,
I don't know what they're fearful of. I can't imagine that somehow they're going to carve things up. It seems, they're being a bit.
It's not really about that. I don't think it's about the clarity, because UEFA have received a lot of criticism in the past for the split as perceived between Salzburg and Leipzig, for example, is something that they've really struggled to keep up with, and football authorities in general have really struggled to keep up with this multi-club model, I think. And the thing is, the way that Textor has worked, which is basically just promises the money will be there in the future. That's why he's sort of run aground with French authorities. And I guess that the thing that makes it interesting to me is the fact that despite having all those shares at Palace, Textor never really had any influence. And that's why he wanted to sell. That's why he found it frustrating. It wasn't just to get the money. It's because he was annoyed that he had nearly half the shares and he had absolutely no say of what was going on at Palace. Now, I think the concerning thing in the future is that he wants to buy another English club. He wants to add that to Eagle. Of course, he tried to do that with Everton. It didn't work. He got gazumped by the Friedkins, which is great news for Everton, by the way. There's absolutely no doubt of that. But I think the complexity of the Lyon case is such that, UEFA want to make sure that they're completely impervious to criticism, especially when Drogheda from the League of Ireland got flung out for their link with Selkeborg earlier in the summer.
Yeah, I do love the phrase gazumped by the Friedkins. It sounds like some sort of euphemism, but I don't quite know what for.
I think Robert De Niro's one of his later films.
So, Club World Cup, we got Bayern PSG in the quarterfinals. I mean, Bayern made slightly harder work of it last night than PSG did.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say Bayern faced slightly better opposition. I mean, it was interesting to hear Zlatan Ibrahimovic's take on it. I mean, clearly people have looked at him and thought he's not a Messi lover because of how it ended for him at Barcelona, because of the arguments that Zlatan had with Pep Guardiola and the way that Messi was put front and centre. But the way that Ibrahimovic put it was, well, it was if Messi had been in a decent team, maybe it would have been different. He's still a great player, but he's not surrounded by good players. He said it was a defeat for Inter Miami and a defeat for football, not a defeat for Leo Messi. I don't see how you can really pick that apart, to be perfectly honest.
It'd be interesting to see what happens in the World Cup next year, whether he does play for Argentina, because
that feeds into what Andy says. He's surrounded by much better. You can kind of indulge the way he plays in a good side.
Yeah, I wonder if he starts, though. And for the first time, it's a discussion in Argentina, which I think is interesting. You know, they've got another Textor-owned player, unbelievably, in Thiago Almada, who does a lot of heavy creative lifting now and does that well for them. I think you look at the fact that there's no team that's really dominating world football at the moment, which is another plus for Argentina as well. Look, he'll definitely be in the squad. Whether he starts is another question. And, of course, he's out of contract in MLS in December. So whether he stays, whether he goes to Saudi Arabia is still a possibility, although apparently Mrs. Messi isn't too enamoured with the idea. You know, there are a lot of different possibilities for Messi between now and next summer.
Let's talk about Turkey. Tammy Abraham is the latest player to be heading there. Stephen Suffolk has been wanted to ask you a question about that. They seem to be attracting bigger and better players. I take it it's higher wages as well these days.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, especially since the exclusion of Russia from polite society in European football, the fact is that it's given the Turkish Super League a bit of a boost because they've got really low tax. So what that means is they can offer pretty big wages, often privately funded, not just funded by the clubs themselves, covered by sponsors, etc., etc. I think if you look at the model of football nowadays, like let's go back a few years and look at the signing of Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, for Juventus. Now, we sat there and talked about, is he the piece, is he the goal scorer that pushes Juventus over the top and makes them win the Champions League? And now I think we look at that transfer in retrospect and think, was it ever really about that? No, I don't think it was. It was about sponsorships. It was about Facebook impressions. It was about social media follows. It was about all those sort of things. Now, admittedly, it probably ended up digging Juventus a lot bit of a financial hole because of the amount of money that they're paying him. But I think that model has been applicable to Turkey. So you look at Galatasaray and the big names that they've signed. You look at Fenerbahce signing Jose Mourinho, for example, who ended up with, 15 points less than his predecessor and still didn't win the title. But they're keeping him because, of course, it makes them an international concern rather than just a Turkish concern. Now, Tammy Abraham, he's going there as a direct replacement for Ciro Immobile, who's coming back to Italy to play for Bologna, I think. And this has come at the best possible time for Roma because this is the last day at which they can register a capital gain, which means they won't get a big punishment off UEFA. So theoretically, UEFA, despite their brilliant season, certainly in the back end of last season, could chuck them out of the Europa League. They probably wouldn't, but they would limit their squad. They would limit their ability to include new signings. And seeing as Abraham was out on loan at Milan last season and they haven't wanted him for a while, that's a real plus. Funnily enough, the only previous club that made a firm offer for Tammy Abraham was Zenit St. Petersburg, but he didn't fancy Russia, understandably.
Fair enough. Now, some players that could be heading to the Premier League. Sunderland fans would like to know a bit more about Habib Diarra. Looks like he's pretty close to signing from Strasbourg, and also from Atletico Madrid. Ronaldo Mandava. What can you tell us about them, Andy?
Habib Diarra is going to be a great signing for Sunderland. Really impressed that they're managing to get him, as it looks like. One of the key players for Strasbourg last season, who are brilliant, really overachieved under Liam Rosenior. And okay, they've paid a lot of money for him, but that's Premier League tax for you. That's part of the gig once you go up. He's someone who's really athletic. He doesn't give the ball away much. And I think if you look at the sort of direction that Regis Lebris and Sunderland are going in, it seems to be that they want to go quite possession orientated, which is really interesting because you've got to have the right players to do that. Yeah. So getting Diarra on board, and they've already got Enzo Lefebvre, of course, who Lebris knew quite well in the first place and did really well in the second half of last season for them. I think they're two really interesting permanent signings for them to go with. Now, Ronaldo has been largely really good for Atletico. He's a bit older now, but he gives them a little bit of extra flexibility because he's played as a left back, left-sided centre back in the three. Still athletic enough to get around. Certainly likes to let attackers know that he's there as well, and his experience is an organiser. And if they're really going to go with quite a young team, someone who's experienced at the top level in Europe is quite important. So I think that's an interesting signing too.
West Ham and Brentford are battling out with Adama Bojang from Grasshopper. So what can you tell us about him?
A limited amount, to be honest, because he's on loan at Grasshopper last season, having been at Reims, not really played for the first team that much since he's been there. Really slow start at Grasshopper. Started to score a bit more prolifically in the second half of the season. I mean, to me, he seems like a project for either of those clubs. He's not going straight in the first team. There's absolutely no way. I mean, in terms of finishing, in terms of his raw pace, there's definitely something there, but to me, it looks like a development project.
And Everton trying to get Villarreal French under-21 striker Tiano Barry in.
Yeah, who adapted. He came from Switzerland and adapted surprisingly well last season. Really impressed by him. Uses his body really well. Good finisher as well. Pretty consistent over the season. Ideally, I think he should stay at Villarreal, play European football with them and develop. But as we know, that isn't never how it works nowadays.
We've got like 30 seconds on this.
This is an interesting story, though.
I heard you talking about it, excuse me, with Danny Kelly last night on Trans Europe Express. Barcelona are finally paying players for COVID-delayed wages, which they should have paid ages ago. I mean, that was a long time ago, Andy.
Yeah, COVID was a long time ago, wasn't it? I mean, I think it's not just the fact that they're paying Messi and Busquets the last of what they owe. It's some of these people who are getting money, you're like, God, I forgot they even played for Barcelona. Like Miralem Pjanic, Samuel Umtiti, who's been gone from there for ages as well. So they're tying that up. Of course, it wouldn't be Barcelona if they didn't leave a little bit hanging over. So one of the guys they owe money to is Frenkie de Jong, who has got a year left on his contract. They're currently renegotiating a new contract with him, which presumably will pay him a little bit less than his previous one. And it's, well, you know, we'll still owe it to you. You're not going anywhere and we're not going anywhere. Well, maybe we'll pay you a little bit further down the line.
God, that's ropey, isn't it, for a club like Barcelona?
Well, they've been like that for some time.
But not surprising.
Not surprising. We'll catch up with you next week, Andy. Thanks very much.
Look forward to it. Thank you, guys.
For a longer chat on European football, Trans Europe Express, available as a podcast now every Sunday night with Danny, Andy and their guests. Rocky Clark joins us next. We'll look back on the Lions' first warm-up game in Oz. They're back in action on talkSPORT 2 on Wednesday morning, I believe. We'll chat to Rocky about that. And the women's Lions, which they've got their first tour to New Zealand in 2027. We'll see what Rocky, former World Cup winner, makes of that.
agony for the Eagles continues. UEFA have postponed the ruling over Palace's participation in next season's Europa League. The matter of breaching multi-club ownership rules is still being looked into due to John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right? Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-levels. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it, because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour, and Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series, and now he's packing his bags.
There's more on talkSPORT.com.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and we're going to talk rugby now, and the Lions who got underway in Australia at the weekend with a 54-7 victory. Now I'm going mad. What am I talking about? I've lost the plot. No, 50. Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah. Right. I suddenly thought I'd got that hopelessly wrong.
No.
Anyway, against Western Force. Here to chat about that, part of our top team bringing you the Lions tour as England World Cup winner, Rocky Clark. Hi, Rocky.
Hi, gents. How you doing?
Not too bad. I think I was reading Stephen Jones in the Times yesterday saying I think they made a bit of a scrappy start to the game. I mean, they want, but shouldn't we kind of expect that? I mean, they've hardly had any time to work together, so it was always going to be a bit of a work in progress, and that's what warm-up games are for, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They've got to learn to gel different combinations. It's always going to be, a little bit stop-starty, a bit rusty, just trying to get those combinations sorted. So, yeah, I think that's fair by Stephen, for sure. And I think as the tour goes on, they'll get better and better. And that's why you have so many games for them to gel and have such a big squad as well.
Now, we saw Thomas Williams pull up, didn't he? Scored that try and then clutched his hamstring. You thought, oh, no, it's not that bad. But sadly, it is. He was looking sharp, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on fire, wasn't he? And do you know what? When I saw him grab his hamstring, I thought, oh, he's done that properly. Having done my hamstring twice and been out for months with it, I knew that was probably going to be a tour-ending one. Tough for him because he'd been on such fine form. 2 wonder tries as well, and scoring in a forward roll. Pretty impressive acrobatics as well. But
was it the dive to put touchdown that did it though? Was that?
What do you think? The dive did it, or
I don't know. I'm just asking. Yeah.
I think it was the dive. I think it was as he leapt forward. I think it went. I've done mine in a mall. Would you believe? So stranger things have happened. So gutting for him, but obviously opens the door for Ben White, and that's a big opportunity for him.
Yeah, that's right.
we always know that whatever Lions squad is announced, it's always going to change by the end of it because it's such a grueling sort of 10-game tour. It's tough, and you're going to get through a lot of players.
How do you compare and contrast the two players then, Williams and White?
Well, White was unlucky to get in initially, so he's somebody that just brings a real calmness with him. I love how the tempo that he has and the speed and the delivery. But for me, Thomas is just somebody that has done so well in that club form as well, and being one of the only Welsh players, I think he's really set himself apart from the rest. But he really has been so well this year. It's tough, but it's great to have somebody second in line, Ben White, ready to hop on over and be here immediately. So I think he'll slot straight in.
What was the good that came out of that win over Western Force, and were there any red flags for you, Rocky? Any things you thought, we've really got to work on that?
Oh, well, there was one glaringly obvious red flag, and that was the restarts. They are the third set piece, if you like, and they just couldn't get hold of them. The Force were incredible at taking restarts. Obviously, with a change in the laws as well, you can't sort of protect the person receiving the ball anymore, like subtly. So they just let it bounce too often and weren't able to get on it, and the Force were really kicking well to go over the pod and catch out the oppo. So that's a big area for Farrell to work on. Defensively, they got caught out a couple of times as well, a few lapses, but obviously they're working to a defensive system, but they're all different players. They all have different timings and structures of what they're used to. So it's just about time together and making that come together and get off that line and make those big hits. But there was some really good stuff. We talked a lot about Pollock before. He has really shown that he has got moments of magic. He wasn't perfect, but he was very, very good at certain times. He, obviously, with his chip over and collecting it, it's not often you see a number 8 do that, but when they do and they regather it and set up a try, it's pretty impressive. Obviously, he had his little line break as well with his open side as well, Van der Fleer. So it was just it was a good innings from him. It was a real nuisance. He obviously tarred with a yellow card, but this kid has got huge potential, and I think he's fighting his way or arguing his way into a match day 23.
Did you see the stadium announcer was trolling some of the players?
Yeah, they're talking about where they were born. I mean, that's
so Australian, isn't it?
But any advantage. What did you make of that, Rocky?
Oh, it just makes me laugh. Like there's always a little bit of talk before a game, is whether it's the coaches going at each other or a few subtle digs coming in from players. But it was quite funny coming from the stadium announcer and former Australian, blah blah blah. Yeah. It just made me laugh. But and sorry, another person of note who was very, very good was McCarthy in that second row. He was phenomenal. His carrying, just a nuisance and that kind of thing. So another great player to come out of that.
Quite a lot of changes for the Reds game. Andy Farrell's announced the squad, 14 changes. Itoji's back as skipper in this one. What do you make of the players that are coming in?
Yeah, I think he's gone for a few. He's gone for a few combinations. He wants to look at a couple. Obviously, Bundyaki and Hugh Jones is a big one. Keenan's coming in, so that'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But liking the look of Van der Merwe and Freeman starting again there, and Tom Curry and Morgan on that back row. So yeah, I think he's starting to shape a few partnerships. I think there's opportunity. Obviously, Gibson Parker's been out, and now with Thomas Williams out as well, that he needs to be wrapped up in cotton wool really, but he does need that game time as well. With Finn Russell, the only person to retain his starting position, and he was just a maestro, wasn't he? At the weekend, that lovely crossfield to Sheehan, who tapped it down to low, and then Sheehan just went over. Like he's in insane form. That quick tap penalty where they flew up that right hand side, and it was Pollock and Daly was on the end of it to get that try. You know, it's exciting team, and you got some real firepower to come off the bench as well with Genji, who'd played well, and Finn Smith, on the bench, and Ringrose. Some real weapons there.
Tougher test, though, isn't it? They've got some decent players.
I think Western Force, we were told, I think Ben Cohen was chatting, they were saying they're the kind of weaker of the teams they'll play in warm-ups. It's gonna hot up, and the opposition's going to get stronger, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you'd want from your tour. I mean, it was a pretty harsh start for them playing Argentina as their first game, but as they've come over to ours, and it's going to get progressively harder, and that's what you want to do. You want to learn stuff from each game. Everybody gets their shot in the first few, and then they'll start sort of prepping with their potential Lions team heading into it.
Finally, Rocky, knowing you were coming on with us today, I was talking in the office to Andy. I said, is there a women's Lions? So I started to do a bit of research. And until
he was asking the wrong person.
Yeah, I was asking the wrong. But until last year, there wasn't. And the first tour's happening in 2027. But our own Andrew McKenna, who's going to be bringing us commentaries, of course, from the Lions tour, says he believes there's some people in the women's game who wonder whether it's the kind of thing that the actual women's game needs at the moment. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm obviously gutted. Now I'm old. I never got the chance to play for them, but yeah, it's something that you'd want to be a part of. And as a player, I can't see any reason why you would be against a Lions team. But it doesn't, for me, doesn't necessarily have to look like the men's, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at the same time as the men's. The women's game has now evolved that it can stand on its own 2 feet. I think the women's rugby is going to change forever this year during the World Cup, and like the Lionesses did with winning the Euros a few years back. I think the women's game is going to change, and the Lions for the women will be a huge asset and a massive selling point. And it will start small, and it will grow and grow and grow, and hopefully there'll be a sea of red following the women's Lions around as well.
Excellent, Rocky. I'm sure we'll catch up with you during the Lions tour. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Stay cool, gents.
There we are. That's Rocky Clark, the England World Cup winner there. So part of our top team. Second warm-up game, 10 a.m. on talkSPORT 2 on Sunday. And I was out and about, on Wednesday. I was out and about on Saturday and heard Macca's commentary. It was sounding very good. So we got some fantastic commentary, a brilliant team, including Rocky and Ben and others. So we got really good people to bring you the Lions tour down under. So we're going to talk swimming next, Andy. What's your swimming like?
Good.
You good?
Third in the Barnet Championships.
Wow. So you learned you learned at a young age.
Oh yeah. That was about 1967.
Well, we're going to learn from Tom Dean, a 3-time gold medal winning swimmer, that there's quite a lot of adults that can't swim, and for those there could be free lessons.
That's good.
Yeah, we'll tell you more about that and other matters besides in a few moments' time. Talksport.com, text 1889, tweet TSH and J 03717223344 to get in touch this afternoon. We're here with Tool Station, standing behind every single tradesperson of Britain. Next stop, Tool Station. Wimbledon with Lisa O'Sullivan.
Just taking a look at Cam Norrie, who's taken the third set to lead 2-1 against Roberto Bautista Agut of Spain. And Arthur Ferry was 2 sets up against Alexei Popyrin, the number 20 seed from Australia. The Australian has taken that third set now, and they're into a fourth. And just about to get underway on court number 1 is the very talented Jacob Fernley of Great Britain facing the 18-year-old Brazilian João Fonseca, who's beaten him twice already this year. But this should be an absolute sizzling match, and following it will be Emma Raducanu and Mimi Zhu, who'll probably want to sit back and chill out for a while because it's going to go a while. Just to point out, there's lots of empty seats in the really sunny part of centre court. The heat seems to be really taking its toll on the crowd here today.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Annie, just remind us of your swimming prowess. What did you win?
Third in the Barnet Championships, 1967.
Third 1967 Barnet Championships.
Tremendous.
And what was your stroke of choice?
Breaststroke.
Okay. Is that still your go-to stroke, Andy?
Yeah, I've been swimming for ages, but I loved it. I used to go a lot regularly, and it was good, very good exercise.
You never lose it, do you? Once you got it, I think.
No, I think
it's
a bit of a shock.
Well, I don't mean you're not going to win the Barnet Championships now. You know you're going to come third.
Hopefully, not going to drown either.
Well, exactly. I mean, once you've learned to float and you've got the confidence.
Oh yeah.
But it is surprising that 9 million adults admit that they don't know how to swim in this country. Yeah, it's a shocker, isn't it?
Well, if you don't get taught when you're young, then it's difficult.
Yeah. Anyway, here to tell us more, a man who most certainly can swim. He's won 3 gold medals for it, for goodness sake.
Oh yeah.
Tom Dean, hello Tom.
Hi guys.
What about that? You impressed? Third in the Barnet Championships, 1966. You're in there's greatness alongside us today.
The crowd at Squires Lane Pool were just on their feet.
They've never forgotten it, have they? Yeah, that's right. What was your first bit of silverware? How old were you, or goldware? If that's the way we should put it these days.
It's a good question. Yeah, probably not quite the Barnet Champs, but up at Wickham Leisure Centre, they used to have a pool up there. I was 9 years old. That was my first competition, I think. So I swam for Maidenhead. So not the breaststroke. So I could probably do with a few tips on the breaststroke. But it was a front crawl medal, I think.
Well, Andy, he does give lessons. Were you a bit of a water baby, Tom? When did you first start swimming? How old were you?
Yeah, I've been in the pool, honestly, for as long as I can remember. All my siblings as well. We got taken down when we were kids every Sunday, down to the local pool. Kind of grew up like northwest London area before we moved out here. So, yeah, just the local leisure centre. As long as I can remember, really, and never really stopped.
It is quite worrying, this statistic, because, it is a lifesaver, isn't it, really? It's not just a skill. It could actually one day save your life. So I think 9 million adults can't swim. What did the research say? Did they look at some of the reasons why that is?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Firstly, it's not only a sport. It's the only sport that can save your life. So it's absolutely a life skill. 9 million British adults. 1 in 3 say they're not confident at all in the water, which is crazy. 33%. I think there's loads of factors at play, to be honest. If pools are shut in your local area, a lot, like you said, a lot of people haven't swum for a long time, but most people are safe in the water.
Yeah.
But people who aren't, they might not have access to it at all. And then I think there's a big stigma actually around adults learning to swim. But I think that needs to be thrown out completely. People go and get, I was saying to someone earlier, people go and get golf lessons. You should go and get a swimming lesson, because not only is it a sport and probably the best way to stay fit and healthy, because it's low impact and all ages can do it, but it's something that could actually save your life one day.
It's true. You're going to get a lot less injured swimming than you are running. That's absolutely.
Yeah, that's very true. That's right. But people saying, because you then are, otherwise you're confined to the shallow end, aren't you? You can sort of stand there and splash about as long as you're on your feet. But it's if you go on holiday, it takes away. You're not as confident, certainly in the sea, where you want to be able to swim. So it is something that people should do. You're right. But there is a bit of a stigma attached to it. And I know you've got together with good people at EasyJet. They're offering adult lessons, aren't they?
Yeah, 1,000 adults will be getting free learn to swim lessons, actually, as part of the EasyJet Holidays campaign. And, it's definitely a step in the right direction of bringing that number down. But, yeah, that's what's been given out. That's part of the campaign. It can all be found at the EasyJet Holidays website. They asked if I wanted to kind of be involved with the launch and spearhead the campaign. And honestly, once I started seeing some of those stats, I think because I grew up in a family that all swam, my brothers and sisters swam, my mum swam to keep fit and healthy and stuff like that. And then I've stayed in the sport. I just assume, well, everyone can swim. It's just a skill that everyone has. But actually, once you start to see the numbers, and also the number of kids that are leaving school not able to swim because schools just can't afford to put swimming lessons on anymore, and the budgets are getting squeezed. So it's a problem that's actually growing. Campaigns like this are a great step in the right direction. Pools need to stay open, and hopefully we can start to solve the problem.
What about swimming as a sport? Because we all love it come the Olympics. Everybody's so much interest in it. And I remember when I was a kid, it was featured on Grandstand and things like that. But it seems to have competitive swimming meets and things like that sort of gone off the radar a bit.
Yeah, look, it's one of those sports, isn't it? Everyone watches the Olympics, and I'm guilty of it as well. I watch Chris Hoy at the Olympics, but I can't say I tune into every European race he did, maybe, And it's the same with us. We've got our world champs. We've got the world champs next month, actually, and it's a big meet for us. It's a tough one, but it won't get as many eyes as the Olympics. The Commonwealth Games next summer, that's probably the closest we're going to get to an Olympic Games.
Yeah.
But look, everyone remembers, your David Wilkie, your Adrian Morehouses, your Rebecca Adlingtons, these, Mark Fosters, these, Olympic heroes of the sport. So look, the Olympics, we're an Olympic sport. So once every 4 years is our World Cup, isn't it? We don't have a Premier League every year, unfortunately. But as long as you make sure you make it count every 4 years, then that's what it's all about.
What's coming up for you then, Tom?
Yeah, so World Champs next month in Singapore. To be honest, we're at the start of an Olympic quad. So this first year after the Olympics, everyone kind of takes a break. Some people kind of come straight back into it. It's a bit of a weird year before everyone starts building up a little bit. But honestly, there's some young lads right now in Great Britain coming up through the ranks. So I think by the time we get to LA in 2028, in 3 years' time, they're going to be firing. Our relay teams are really strong. So I won the gold medal with the relay 2 Olympics and the trot now. So hopefully we can go for a third. And we've got some young lads coming up. So, it's going to be an exciting few years of competition, but also a great chance to throw myself into passion projects like this, try and get more people in the sport if we can.
And you're committed to another Olympic cycle because here you start competitive swimming at a young age. I know it takes a sort of lot out of you and you have to commit a lot of hours and a lot of dedication to it, but you're up for 2028.
Yeah, 100%. I love the sport. Competing at Olympics, nothing comes close to it. It's what's interesting because a lot of my friends came out to Paris to watch it, and they went and watched the golf. Actually, a lot of these golfers are saying representing their country in Olympic Games is one of the most special moments in their careers. And these guys are winning majors, earning millions and millions of dollars. But there's nothing like quite putting on your flag on your chest, hearing the anthem when you win a gold medal, representing a country. I mean, nothing comes close to that. So. Yeah, if I can get in, hopefully one more Olympics at least, then it'd be an honour to represent my country again, and that's the big driver for me.
So where can we find, if somebody's out there thinking, you know what, I might take EasyJet up and Tom up on these 6 free swimming lessons, be one of the 1,000, where do they need to go?
All the information is on the EasyJet Holidays website. So like I said, get up, sign up. Hopefully you can be one of the 1,000. I'm sure they're going to fly off the shelves for those free swimming lessons. But even if you miss out, I would just say get down to your local pool. Yeah. You can start really easily. It's such great exercise. And then when you go on holiday, or it's going to be a hot summer, people want to go down to the beach. They want to be in pools. You'll just feel safe. You feel better. If you've got kids, then you can go with your kids as well. So I'll just say get down to your local pool if you can.
No one's expecting you to be an Olympic swimmer. You just get the confidence in the water. Just get confidence to float and feel safe, and then that's all you really need to do, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And look, if you love competing, then there'll be a Barnet Champs out there for you somewhere. But, if not, then just get stuck in. Absolutely.
I think they retired the breaststroke the year that Andy came third, as a mark of honour.
Let's see if we can find out who came first and second.
Yeah, well, whatever happened to those two guys? Yeah. Cheers, Tom. All the best. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
There's Tom Dean now, 3-time Olympic gold medalist.
The last time I was in the pool was doing aquarobics with my wife.
Really?
Really surprised me.
Wow. Did you see the videos last week of our own Alex Crook? You saw those, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
He was doing aquarobics, that's right. He was standing in the shallow end. I don't know what his swimming's like, but he'll be back soon, trying to live that video down. So, still to come this afternoon, I think we're going to talk a bit of cricket. The team's been announced for Wednesday at Edgbaston, the second test against India. Bit of an update from Nick Ellaby actually on one of the players very shortly. Angelina Kelly's going to join us. England's women set off for the Euros in Switzerland with a thumping 7-0 victory against Jamaica yesterday. We'll pick the bones out of that and hear from some of the players. We'll head off to Silverstone where they've got the British Grand Prix this weekend. Stuart Pringle, the CEO, is a busy man, but he'll be joining us later. And we'll look at some of the transfer stories of the day from out of the Club World Cup, which has been weather affected, as Chelsea fans will tell you. Ben Jacobs is out there. We'll chat to him later on.
Agony for the Eagles continues. UEFA have postponed the ruling over Palace's participation in next season's Europa League. The matter of breaching multi-club ownership rules is still being looked into due to John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right, Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway, and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
It was a fairy tale. No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-levels. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it. Because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again. But of course, everyone then presumed because she'd won a Grand Slam that she was going to be a top 10 player. And yet she wasn't even in the top 100. And you've got to give her time to develop her game.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour. And Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series, and now he's packing his bags.
The Lions next face the Queensland Reds, live on talkSPORT, 11 a.m. UK time on Wednesday. A few Wallabies will be involved, but most will be rested, including flanker Fraser McWright. And Gordon Darcy says, from the Wallabies' perspective, that's fair enough.
If Australia win the series, they will say, well, we did what was necessary to win the tour, because really that's all that matters. 2005 we won nearly all the midweek matches, but ultimately lost the series, and the same in 2009 down in South Africa. So ultimately, it's all about those three matches.
There's more on talksport.com.
Good afternoon, Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. England's women will be setting off to Switzerland shortly for their first game on Saturday. Their send-off yesterday against Jamaica. Got a big 7-0 win. Angelina Kelly's going to pop in and chat about that. We're off to Silverstone to speak to Stuart Pringle, the CEO. And it's so much more than just a motor race these days. As Stuart will explain. It certainly is. I mean, you've got sort of Sam Fender and Fatboy Slim and all manner of people doing sets there. And he's a busy man, but we'll chat to him later on. And Steve Harmison's going to join us. England, as Nick was just telling you there, have announced the unchanged team. Would Jofra have been involved or not? Probably not, really, with this family emergency. But we will be chatting to Harmy about it later on. But before all of that, off to the Club World Cup, which is what João Pedro could be doing before Friday as well, as a Chelsea player. Ben Jacobs joins us. Hello, Ben.
Good afternoon.
Unlike any other, I mean, it's unlike any other tournament anyway, but the fact that you can name a squad but then just add players to it as you sign them is quite a point of difference, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think when you sit in the Champions League, we don't really discuss it because you register your squad, you get to the knockout stage, and then obviously in the second half of the tournament, you update your squad. But because this is only a full-week tournament, there's 2 windows and there's no real gap between them. So first, the 10th of June, you name your squad up to 35. 27th of June to the 3rd of July, there's a secondary window with the knockouts in mind, and you can make up to 6 outfield changes. That's if you're losing players, should you take the maximum of 35. And if you're at 35, Chelsea aren't, so this is a moot point with them. But if you're full, you can add 2 and extend your squad to 37. So Chelsea have got 2 players travelling out. Jamie Gittins, who can't play in the Club World Cup because he was already registered for Dortmund, and João Pedro, who can.
Yeah, I think he's already there, Gittins, isn't he? He was out there with Dortmund but not playing the games. I think the one thing this tournament has really brought up, I mean, there have been 6 games now interrupted by weather problems. And we saw PSG and Inter Miami playing indoors. And it's really going to skew the World Cup. In some games, teams get to play indoors and some teams get to play in, 34, 38 degrees. It's not satisfactory, that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it's been noted as well being out here on the ground. For example, Chelsea played LAFC in Atlanta, fantastic stadium. It has a roof. You can choose to leave it open, but you can close it in extreme heat, and that's exactly what happened because the Chelsea opening game was 3 o'clock in the middle of a heat wave in Atlanta. Then you moved to Philadelphia, and that's an exposed stadium, no roof. And I think Chelsea struggled, and they ended up obviously losing to Flamengo. And this is what teams are probably going to flag, less the climate itself and more that inconsistency between some of these big World Cup venues that are fantastic for NFL, but very exposed, and others that are maybe newer or more modern that can adapt to extreme heat or potentially storms. The delays as well have been worrying in specific venues. Charlotte, where I was for the Chelsea game, which was delayed for almost 2 hours, but that's not a World Cup venue. And then this evening I'm in Orlando, and this is going to be really interesting because the only kind of saving grace from the Chelsea delay was the fact it kicked off at 4 o'clock local time. So you had plenty of time to wait, even though it wasn't ideal, but player safety comes first. Tonight, Manchester City are in action against Al Hilal. It's a knockout game. There's £50 million at stake. It kicks off at 9 o'clock local time. So if you get another 2-hour delay, then you're either finishing middle of the night or you have to go to bed and potentially play the rest of the game next morning. And the bad news is the weather forecast is heavy rain with about a 50-50 chance of some thunder.
Wow.
I don't know where the final is mooted to be, but if they want it to be a decent game, they should hold it indoors because it's such a different, it's a completely different sport when it's played at, like 60 degrees as opposed to 85 or whatever it is, or again, centigrade. So it's not right, really, but there you go.
Yeah, I think what FIFA would argue is this is a dress rehearsal for the World Cup, and not all the Club World Cup venues are the same as the World Cup ones. So it will be a moot point if, first of all, we don't get the same heat wave. A lot of people in America telling me this is atypical weather. It won't necessarily be replicated like for like come the World Cup. and then the fact that many of the stadiums are better equipped in Texas, in New York, New Jersey, where the final is. MetLife should be fine too, but there's definitely been one or two that have been problematic. Philadelphia, they've never seen heat like this, but we've not had the lightning, which is the key issue, rather than the thunder. And then obviously Orlando, very wet, very rainy, very stormy, but footballers are used to playing in those kind of conditions in England. It's just about, is lightning going to be added? Because that forces them by protocol off the field. And then Charlotte was just something that actually the locals are used to in baseball and in NFL. But from a football point of view, it's probably the first time that the Chelsea players have ever been through that kind of scenario. And this is why Enzo Maresca said, quote, "It was a joke."
Yeah, the crowds haven't been great. They've been all right in some games, but it was really noticeable. The US men's national team, that was played in America, it seemed like a pretty full stadium.
Yeah, I think it's competing with a lot of things. The working day, first of all, and that may be the same for the World Cup as well. Then you've got the Gold Cup, and a lot of people are watching America, and you've still got the baseball season ongoing too. But as I've said many times, you've had this kind of paradox between the lower ranked teams at this tournament thinking maybe we won't get out the group stage and we've got a showpiece fixture, LAFC against Chelsea, Wydad against Man City. Those fans have come in huge numbers because they want to be part of that one-off fixture. Think about Al Ahly fans getting to see Messi in the opening game. The bigger teams, fans from abroad anyway, are waiting. And if you're a Chelsea fan, I don't think you would have gambled on coming out in the group stage. It's costly. It's 5 weeks of your time. Then you've got Benfica, but it's in Charlotte. So maybe you wait. And only now, as we get to the quarterfinals, might we see a bit more international tourism. And a lot of Chelsea fans I know are saying, let's come out for the quarterfinals. See Esteval Willian, it's in Philadelphia. Take the train to New York, maybe a semi-final against Man City. Then if they're there in the final, you go between Philly and New York or New Jersey. It's more cost-effective, it's less time. So I do think attendances will pick up, particularly from those European fans come the business end of the tournament.
Now, one of the stories transfer-wise has been, it's the same three strikers. It's Gyökeres, Sesko, Ekitike, being linked to different clubs. It's almost like bingo, striker bingo. The latest is Arsenal are still searching for a striker. Ekitike, apparently, from Eintracht, they're in the frame for, but so are Chelsea. I don't know if they're still looking at him.
I doubt it.
Now they've got
well, unless they sell Jackson.
Liverpool, Manchester United, and now Arsenal. Where's Ekitike likely to rock up, do you think?
Yeah, I'd be cautious on Ekitike because every week Frankfurt seem to be spinning a new club and that helps them get their 100 million. And all of those clubs have inquired, but they're waiting because the later we get in the window, the more that price might drop. So situation very simply is Arsenal still want Sesko or Gyökeres. I was told that they were leaning towards Sesko, but it's really just about the price because both those players would be prepared to join. So Arsenal want to do either of those deals, but not both for 70 million euros. If they can't, they might turn their attention to Ekitike, but nowhere near at 100 million if that remains the price. Same can be said for Manchester United. Liverpool are going to explore Isak. I don't want to be kind of misleading Liverpool fans to get overexcited yet, but exploring basically means, do we have to entirely give up? Or is there that 1% chance that it's worth a bid? And now we're into July. They'll work out that situation, whether Newcastle simply aren't going to sell and they hold all the cards, or whether actually it might be worth engaging. And if Isak becomes in Liverpool's mind not 99% but 100% ungettable, then they move on. And Ekitike is certainly a player quite high in Liverpool's thinking. With Chelsea, they like Ekitike, but as you rightly say, it will all depend on Nicolas Jackson.
Christian Romero, there was excuse me, a lot of talk at the end of the season, and he made a couple of noises saying he'd like a possible change of environment. Atletico Madrid had been talked about, and there were some reports in Argentina that a deal had been agreed, which everybody here seems is denying. So what's the latest with him, do we know?
Yeah, those reports are wide of the mark as far as I'm aware, both in terms of the suggested valuation, but also the advancement with Spurs. There is a very realistic chance that Cuti Romero departs. Atletico Madrid is his preferred destination. It reminds me of Darwin Núñez and Napoli. Romero wants Atleti, Atleti want Romero, but you've got to agree a deal with Spurs in the same way that Napoli have got to agree a deal with Liverpool. And at this point, I think in both instances, 70 million euros or so seems to be the number. Atleti City a month ago were thinking about 40 or 45 plus add-ons, they're going to have to go significantly higher to stand a chance. It remains to be seen whether Spurs might drop that valuation by 5 or 10 million. But in essence, Tottenham are braced for a formal Atleti bid, but the notion it's agreed or close is jumping the gun at this stage and denied by Tottenham and Atleti sources that I'm speaking to. And then for Spurs, keep an eye, because it's not just going to be about trying to either keep Romero or get a deal that allows them to fund their window. They've got Champions League money, and I expect Tottenham's summer to really get going now. And as we've reported on talkSPORT last week, Mohamed Kudus is the one that Tottenham feel could be done at value and significantly south of his £85 million release clause. Eberici Eze is another player that Tottenham like, but they're not really moving. Arsenal might be the ones to watch there. Semenya's seen by Tottenham as too expensive, but it's clear from this kind of profile of player that Thomas Frank wants an attack-minded, versatile player to come behind Dominic Solanke and hopefully get between 7 and 10 goals a season. And Kudus, from Tottenham's point of view, at the right price, ticks that box.
Yeah, good play. Fantastic. Enjoy the game tonight, Ben. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
There we are. There's Ben Jacobs. They're out of the Club World Cup. And we're going to bring you that game overnight this evening. And Scott Minto and Nigel Adley, your commentary team. Before that, we've got, that's tomorrow night, isn't it? Real Madrid, Juventus. It's the early hours of Tuesday. Yeah, early hours of Tuesday.
Tonight is, what is it? Yeah, there is a game at earlier on.
It's Inter Milan, isn't it? Inter Milan are playing. They are playing Fluminense. So, but we're certainly going to bring you at 2 a.m. Manchester City, Salzburg, and then Real Madrid versus Juve as well. It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Going to talk about England's women who are heading off to the Euros. We'll be bringing you plenty of coverage, all the England commentaries, the Wales commentaries, and the latter stages of the tournament, live commentaries, and plenty of content from Switzerland. But our own Angelina Kelly's going to pop in and set the scene ahead of the Euros and look back on England's 7-0 win yesterday. We're here with Tool Station. Stay one step ahead, whatever the job. Next stop, Tool Station. Women's Euros get underway on Wednesday, and we'll be right across that here on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2. England's first game is on Saturday evening. They play France. Wales earlier on that evening play the Dutch. Joining us now to look ahead to that and reflect on that 7-0 win at the King Power yesterday is Angelina Kelly. Hi, Angelina.
Hello.
So, yeah, I mean, I was just talking to you off air there. I mean, I remember Jamaica being not a bad side, so 7 was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they did get to the round of 16 at the World Cup in 2023, so I don't think you can write them completely off. Of course, they didn't have their best players. They didn't have a player like Khadija Shaw, who's an absolute goal-scoring machine. But, you know, on the night, England had 35 shots against Jamaica, including 17 on target, and the visitors didn't register a single effort. So it was very one-sided. They obviously did have a chance, which there was VAR in the game. So Jamaica did have a goal scored, but it was ruled due to somebody being in Hannah Hampton's line of view who was offside.
Which they were, I think, looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. You never really know how much to read into these games, but it's the last opportunity for players to impress. And a lot of players did impress. And one of them was Jess Carter. So we heard from her, the Lioness defender, after the game on why Sarina Wiegman is such a good coach.
For me, it's the directness. I think we've always had a really direct way of communicating and understanding of where I stand and what my role is. And for me, that's the most important thing that I value, I think, the most. I think that really helps in the openness with the tactics and the belief that she gives in the players. I think that, I know she makes us all believe that we're pretty incredible. And I think everyone has that confidence from her that anyone can step on the pitch and perform.
From Sarina Wiegman's point of view, she got some minutes into the legs of some players that needed it, like Georgia Stanway and Lauren James as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Jess Carter speaking there, you know, there's also Niamh Charles, who's in contention. She's been playing in her league over in the US for Gotham, so, you know, looks pretty fit. Lauren James was a big one because when Sarina put her in the squad, a lot of people questioning if she would be fit. She played 27 minutes last night, which was her first appearance for club or country since April because of this hamstring injury. She provided an assist. Georgia Stanway has now got 190 minutes total from England's past 3 games, so you know that she's going to be vital. But it was interesting that Lauren James was put in as a number 10. She was Ella Toone came off after scoring 2 goals, and Lauren James played in that position. So it'd be interesting to see how she actually lines everybody up, because somebody like Ella Toone, she was the super sub at Euro 2022. Will she be getting that first team? You know, will she be starting? She has nearly 1,000 minutes more than Lauren James, but you've also got Jess Park, you've got Grace Clinton as well, so that area of the pitch is going to be interesting. I think Kira Walsh and Georgia Stanway are the 2 in midfield that she sticks with. She very much trusts them, but she does trust a player like Ella Toone, and she's shown up in the big moments, so it'll be interesting. And then you've got Chloe Kelly and Beth Mead. They tend to battle it out, and both at Arsenal. You know, Chloe Kelly was actually getting picked above Beth Mead, but she, again, although she's a little bit older now, is a great super sub, set up the Champions League final goal for Arsenal, of course. And then you've got Lauren Hemp, who's back, who's extremely fast on the wing. So, you know,
it will be in good shape, really.
Yeah, I think
Lauren
so.
James is a difference maker, I think.
What about the back? Because they lost Millie Bright, who's important, and they lost Mary Earps. So how did they look at the back, central defence and goalkeeper?
I mean, they
weren't really tested, were they, yesterday?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you know, with Mary Earps, she's obviously come out and said that the support of her England teammates meant the world. She's spoken about, you know, feeling villainised and being largely criticised. I think for me personally, if she has made that decision, that's fair enough. I think the only part of it that I was a bit confused over, that it was less than 6 weeks before, you know, the Euros. Hannah Hampton has 15 caps. It's a lot on her shoulders. Any blip, a dip in form, confidence, an injury, you know, you're left with 2 players who don't even have caps. So it is a little bit worrying. But I think you look at the back four, you've got someone like Lucy Bronze, who is the most experienced player in that camp. And speaking to the England players a week or 2 ago, before, you know, whilst they were in training, everyone said she's the mum of the group. She really puts an arm around the shoulder of everyone.
She's got a good header yesterday.
Yeah, brilliant header. You've got Leah Williamson and Alex Greenwood, both, you know, very, very capable, very experienced. And Jess Carter, you know, she got the nod. She got the nod last night. I think that you would probably go with her because, again, experienced and had a good season with Gotham. So I think overall there will be some names missing, and you don't know You don't know how the tournament will pan out, if you will end up looking and thinking, could we even have just had them in the dressing room, even if they weren't starting, those kind of names with that experience. But looking at the Jamaica game, like we say, they didn't really get tested. But I think going into this tournament, they've got to have a massive boost morale-wise after that game.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough group and a tough start of it against France. But we also heard from Serena Wiegmann, didn't we?
Yeah, we heard from her. She spoke after the game on the belief she actually has in this England side.
I find it important to be honest, open, as transparent as I can be. But I truly believe we are really good. The players make the England squad because they're the best, in my opinion, and together with my technical staff, of course. We think they're the best players in the country and they can contribute to the team performances. So I truly believe that. And yeah, I think we have an amazing team and we have amazing players. And I would like to bring that together. And that's what I work on every single day.
Just away from England, we see Tana Bonmati, the Spain midfielder, is now out of hospital, but she's had viral meningitis. She's going to join up with the squad, but that does knock you for 6. I mean, going in and playing in a tournament, it's not going to be easy for her, is it?
I have not had viral meningitis, but I cannot imagine that must have been extremely scary. She was treated on Friday, days before the start of the tournament. So she will meet up with the national team in the coming days. Spain have already headed to Switzerland. They went on Sunday afternoon. But, she scored 30 goals in 78 games for Spain. Key player in the World Cup, the Nations League last year. She's back-to-back Ballon d'Or winner, and it's almost a little bit of, shades of the last Euros in 2022 when Alexia Putellas suffered that ACL injury on the eve of the tournament. Hopefully it's not going to be as serious as that. Viral meningitis is contagious, but no signs of it spreading to anyone else in the Spain camp as of yet.
So it all gets underway Saturday, doesn't it? Saturday, so we've got Wales and England both playing. Wales kick off and then England 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so in the group with England, we have Wales, we have France, we have the Netherlands. France and the Netherlands, two massive sides. France arrive in Switzerland. They've had a great run. They won all 6 of their Nations League matches this year, conceding just 2 goals. A lot of talent in that team. And also, the Netherlands, a lot of excitement around them. It's also great that you have Beth Mead and Viviana Miedema, who are a couple. They will be facing, against each other. And Beth Mead's been speaking about that, about how they're quite competitive. So it'll be interesting to see that unfold. But yeah, it'll be a tough group for England. They have to finish in the top 2. You would like to think with the talent that this team have got and the depth of the squad that Serena Wiegmann's got, though, that they'll be able to get out of this group.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Angelina. We'll catch up with you, I'm sure, during the tournament. As we said, we'll bring you commentary of both those games on Saturday and lots of content from out in Switzerland from our team out there. Let's check in once again with Lisa O'Sullivan. Watching it all unfold at Wimbledon. Lisa.
Ready for the 2 weeks that they needed to be working here. More than 200 people are not here who are usually...
Okay.
Hello.
What happened there?
Lisa's having a conversation with somebody.
I think she's moonlighting. Doing a bit for another station.
No, she's having a conversation with somebody, I think.
Clearly wasn't expecting us.
No, fair enough.
We'll get to Lisa very shortly. We'll have a chat with Stuart Pringle, the CEO of Silverstone, British Grand Prix this weekend. So much more, as we said, than a motor race these days. It's a huge undertaking. So he's taking 10 minutes out. We'll have a chat with him. Thoughts on a possible British winner. It's every chance, isn't it? There's some likely candidates. And we'll be chatting to Steve Harmison. England have announced their team for the second test against India, Edgbaston on Wednesday. We'll hear a bit more from Chris Wokes, and we'll get Steve Harmison's take on the unchanged team and more. That's all to come.
agony for the Eagles continues. UEFA have postponed the ruling over Palace's participation in next season's Europa League. The matter of breaching multi-club ownership rules is still being looked into due to John Textor's involvement with Lyon. That's despite the fact Textor has resigned from his role at Lyon. Here's Simon's take on the debacle.
Yeah, but what UEFA are trying to avoid making a decision. Right. So if Lyon get relegated by their own league, and then Lyon voluntarily step out of the Europa League, UEFA haven't got a decision to make. Right, Palace will be back in and no one can contest it. If they aren't, then you'll see the cat amongst the pigeons. Because if Lyon say, we've stayed in Liga and we want our position, and Palace say, hang on, he isn't a shareholder anymore, then UEFA are going to get their feet put to the fire to make a decision that someone's going to sue over.
Wimbledon is officially underway and there are 23 British hopes across the men's and women's tournaments. Sue Barker's told us Emma Raducanu's remarkable story at the 2021 US Open is sometimes taken for granted.
No one had ever heard of her. She just finished her A-levels. She came through and won a Grand Slam. It was just, they should make a movie about it, because it's never happened before. I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Meanwhile, down under, the Lions have waved goodbye to their first injury casualty of the tour, and Will Greenwood says it's a big one.
Thomas Williams is a sensational rugby player and would have been in the 23 for the Test series, and now he's packing his bags.
There's more on talkSPORT.com.
Now the wait is finally over as the reunion of the century starts this weekend, and we're giving you a chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets in Manchester on July the 19th. Yes, you heard that right. Oasis Live 25 is sold out, but talkSPORT can get you in, Andy.
But that's not all. Alongside the tickets, we'll put you up for a night in a hotel, put $5,000 in your back pocket, completely tax-free. Listen up right now for everything you need to know and how to enter.
All right, Arcade, you have to be over 18 to enter in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and $5,000 spending money. Text the word Oasis to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m, and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Silverstone is marking their 75th anniversary of Formula One at the track, which is pretty amazing, really. Just reading a bit of background on what's going on at Silverstone, the British Grand Prix this weekend. It's so much more than a motor race now. So a very busy man has found us 10 minutes. The CEO of Silverstone, Stuart Pringle. Hi, Stuart.
Hello.
Yeah, it must be pretty full on for you this week. I mean, because as I said, there is so much going on, isn't there? You've got so many people there. You've got, top level gigs going on with Sam Fender, Fatboy Slim, etc. So not just the racing to deal with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm not looking at anything else to fill my week. There's a bit on here, but the place is coming together beautifully. bit of blue sky is nice in this country. Who'd organise outdoor events in the UK for a living? But it's too hot now. We're complaining about it. No, the British Grand Prix, Formula One British Grand Prix is a very big event now. Amazing sport, fantastic sporting event with Formula One and indeed Formula 2, 3 and 4. The real ladder of talent where all the junior drivers come up all the way to the top. But as you say, music and entertainment across the site, all over the weekend, some top-line artists, all included in ticket price. And so a lot of people come for the weekend, camp, stay locally, really get stuck in. It's a big summer festival.
When does the planning start? Does it start the next day, for example, for next year, start on Monday? Is that how it works?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
It absolutely does, yeah. We have a full-time team. I mean, we do many other things at Silverstone, racing most weekends between March and November, and things over Christmas. We do a Christmas light drive-through, Christmas light show, lap of lights, and there's lots of stuff that goes on year-round. But for the Formula One Grand Prix, we have a team who work on it throughout the year, yeah.
I suppose it's a balance, isn't it? It's a great traditional course. We said 75 years, and you've got people that love their motorsport that maybe some have been coming for those 75 years, I don't know. But you have to marry that with a kind of drive to survive, keeping relevant sort of new people coming to the sport. It's a balancing act, I guess, Stuart.
Yes, it is. Drive to Survive has been a phenomenon, not just in our sport, but actually it's really sort of defined what can be done in sport full stop and spawned these other series around cycling and golf and tennis and what have you. But it's been amazing for introducing a new audience to motor racing. There's an inherent challenge with motor racing. The heroes are covered in wear a big hat, a helmet around their head. You can't see them. This is sort of peeled back the layers, and people have seen behind the skins. And it is, perhaps they've come to the sport for a different reason, but actually it is the excitement of the race that is the common factor with everybody. But we do try and balance things. We of course want to recognise this history and heritage we have. We're very proud of the fact that here at Silverstone we hosted the first ever race of the Formula One World Championship in May 1950. But just relying on that history and heritage is not enough. We need to be forward-looking. We need to make sure that we're offering good value. The tickets are expensive to come to the British Grand Prix because it's a very expensive event to put on, and we have a very expensive bill to pay to get the show to come to town. And unlike sort of 90% of the races on the calendar, we're not publicly funded. We're doing this as a small private company. So it's very important that we demonstrate to everybody that we're packing as much value as we possibly can, and that's why we're putting in the music, we're putting in the comedy clubs, we're putting in the entertainment, we're putting in the second stage, as well as the fantastic support bill.
There are tickets still available, Stuart, is that right?
There are a handful. We've sold out of grandstand seats, but there are a very small number of general admission tickets where you can stand on the bank and still have a fantastic view. And there are some tickets in hospitality available. So if you're thinking about coming, Lando Norris having won yesterday in Austria, and George Russell the weekend before in Canada, then absolutely, I think the Brits are in with a shout. Never bet against Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone. He's won it 9 times before, and Ferrari was a bit quicker yesterday, so he could be in with a shout as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, often they come to Silverstone, we're often relying on one Brit to get the job done and fly the flag. But in this case, I mean, it's going to be a tall order for Lewis based on what we've seen. But let's be positive and say you've got 3 contenders.
Yeah, I think it's probably correct to count out Oliver Bearman at this stage, but who knows? But we've got 4 Brits. 20% of the grid are British drivers. There's no nation that comes close to the UK in terms of consistently putting drivers on the grid. And a factor in that is the fact that we have had a Formula One race in this country consistently for 75 years. The only other country that's been on the calendar for the entire history of the championship is Italy. And if I was to ask you, which 2 countries do you associate most with Formula One, I bet you'd say Britain and Italy. Having this consistency and this history makes a big difference. And our owner, the British Racing Drivers Club, that operates Silverstone on a not-for-profit basis, reinvests a lot of all the profits of the race back into the infrastructure here, and it really wants to support young British drivers, young British and Commonwealth drivers, actually, to ensure that they get onto the grid at Formula One. And that gives us this great ecosystem, which includes an industry that employs 50,000 people, and we're actually pretty good at it in this country.
You've got a karting track as well that's opening later this year, is that right?
Yeah, because that's where it all starts for these guys. You know, they all come from karting, and we've done karting at various stages in different guises at Silverstone in the past. But actually, this is going to be a proper international standard. We aspire to hold the European and in due course the World Championships. But you will still be able to come as your average punter with your family and your friends and compete on this world-class karting track right in the heart of Silverstone. So yeah, we're absolutely committed to trying to find the next talent to give people the chance to try it out. But also we're trying to rebuild Silverstone or rebuild ourselves as a year-round business, not just be a one Sunday in July business. From where I sit as CEO, life's a lot better if you're paying the bills in the winter, you know, not just relying on the summer.
Yeah, of course. It was noticeable Lando Norris saying he was really looking forward to it. The British drivers do love their own home Grand Prix, don't they?
We've a wonderfully knowledgeable partisan crowd. I mean, not so partisan that they become unruly or anything, but they just get behind the British drivers. And you're absolutely right when you talk previously about this sort of endemic interest in the sport in this country and these loyal fans that we've had for many years. It gets passed down intergenerational. You know, I blame my dad for me being here, and there's no hope for my kids, I can tell you. You know, we enjoy this sport together. Well, I think we probably do that across many sports, don't we? In the UK, it's something we can do as family groups, but. We certainly get out and support the Brits. There'll be a lot of red, white and blue, but also a lot of Lando's very bright yellow. He's got a whole grandstand to himself. It's a bit like the seats in the backdrop behind you, actually, Lando's colour.
Did you ever race yourself, Stuart?
No, I'm just a fan who turned his hobby into his day job, really, but never racing, no.
Not necessarily anything wrong with that, of course. No. That's the way to do it.
Brilliant.
You probably won't get a lot of sleep over the next week, wouldn't you? Well, I wouldn't think. Won't be that good.
Well, look, it's a very big team here at Silverstone. It certainly doesn't only rely on my efforts, I can assure you. The place will be going to hell in a handcart to me on my own. So no, we've got, you know, but to give you some sort of sense of the scale, we are a full-time team of just over 300 at Silverstone year-round. Wow. We typically have about closer to 1,000 people that get paid each month during the summer months with our casual staff who come in at weekends and help with the events. But at the British Grand Prix, that scales up to closer to 12,000 people to deliver the whole thing. It is a massive team effort. So, I'll be a busy chap, but there's a lot of people that will be getting up earlier than me and going to bed later than me and keeping us safe and secure.
Excellent. Well,
really interesting.
Hope you have a good weekend and a good week, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
Stuart Pringle there, Silverstone CEO, and
that was interesting. I thought.
Yeah, you can still get tickets. Silverstone.co.uk. You can click through. As Stuart said, there are some general admission tickets and some hospitality tickets still going. We're going to have a chat with Steve Armisen next. England have announced their team for Edgbaston on Wednesday for the second test against India. We'll get Harmy's take on that. Before that, though, we're going to head back to Wimbledon and Lisa O'Sullivan.
I've got more good news on the British front. Cam Norrie's just booked his place in the second round, 6-3, 3-6, 6-4, 7-6 against Roberto Bautista Agut. And a fantastic win by the wildcard Arthur Ferry, who's beaten Alexei Popyrin of Australia, the number 21 in the world, 6-4, 6-1, 4-6, 6-4, his biggest win of the young man's career so far. Joining Sonny Cartal and Oliver Tarvit into the second round. Tarvit will take on the winner of the match on centre court with one set apiece between Carlos Alcaraz and Fabio Fognini.
It's just been confirmed.
Scarves around their necks, but the bank that is opposite my commentary position is the one that gets the most sun as the day goes on, and there's been far more empty seats than there ever usually is on the opening day, and I think the fans over there are really feeling it. So there's plenty of water on site, there's plenty of help on site as well, but it is hot, and it's fantastic.
Good.
Not enough to trigger a 10-minute break for the players yet by the parameters they use at Wimbledon, but 31.4 Celsius at 2 o'clock today, which was higher than the previous record of 2001. So anyway, it'll be raining on Wednesday. We'll all be moaning about that. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, thanks a lot. Lisa O'Sullivan there at Wimbledon. You'll hear from her throughout the afternoon into the evening. But we're going to talk a bit of cricket next before we hand over to Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent with Drive. It's Hawksbee and Jacobs with our good friends at Toolstation, standing behind every single tradesperson of Britain. Next stop, Toolstation. Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Andy Goldstein, Darren Bent up shortly with Drive. But we're going to talk a bit of cricket to end with today. England unchanged for the second test against India at Edgbaston on Wednesday. So Jofra Archer, I think, who's left the camp with a family emergency, will probably have to wait until Lords for his chance. Chris Wokes, though, sense. England all-rounder, who knows Edgbaston very well, of course, was speaking earlier today, saying how good it is to have Jofra back among the squad.
Brilliant for Joff, brilliant for us as a team. Obviously, it's a big boost to have him back. You know, when Joff's around, you know, he adds a lot to the group, not just as a player, but as a person, as a character. He's obviously had a tough journey over the last few years with his injuries, and I think, you know, it's credit to him, the hard work that he's put in to be able to be back in this position now, to be able to hopefully play Test cricket again.
Chris Wokes talking earlier on today. Steve Harmison, part of our top team here, of course, former England fast bowler, joins us. Hi, Harmy.
Good afternoon, boys.
Very magnanimous of Chris Wokes there, considering he could be the one to miss out.
Yeah. I mean, he's like everybody's favourite older brother, isn't he, Chris Wokes? Everybody loves him. He's a great character to have around. Top man, top performer. And he didn't probably have his best of games with the ball at Headingley, but I'm sure going to Edgbaston, he probably just needed the overs under his belt. He'd be better for Edgbaston, and he's got a wonderful record at Lords. So if Jofra does come in at Lords, it'll not be for Chris Wokes, because, you know, the record that Chris has there. So I'm not surprised that Jofra wasn't selected. I still think England picked him to keep him away from county cricket, because if he didn't play for Sussex this week and he wasn't in the squad, a lot of people will be asking, is he injured? What's the problem? I think the problem is the Kookaburra ball, and I mean, Sussex have just done nearly 110 overs in the field. I'm not sure that would have been good for Jofra.
I know Surrey Sibley, I think, was out for 305. It's skewing things, isn't it, this ball? It's not ideal, is it?
Adam Ho's got, was it 266 or something as well?
It's madness, absolute madness. I mean, Anthony McGrath said during the week, you know, if we're gonna go with a Kookaburra ball, we've got to play on pitches that, because it's Australia, you've got to play on the flat, abrasive surfaces, which we don't do. And then if we're going to be trying to teach England players and let them use the Kookaburra ball, let's play at a time when England players are available. If not, you're wasting our time. So I can see why they want to try and trial the ball, but for me, it doesn't work. It's never worked in this country. It never will. And for me, the quicker they throw it in the bin, the better.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see what India do, because we've heard that Bumrah is only going to play 3 tests, so I presume they're going to leave him out in this one.
It looks like it, Andy. It really does. I mean, India could have, a whole host of changes. I can see Nitish Reddy playing. I can see Washington Sundar playing. They'll try and find a way of getting Kuldeep Yadav in, but I'm not sure they can get Yadav and Washington in the same team, but they need Washington's batting.
Yeah, he's a good batter, isn't he, Washington?
He's a good batter. So I can't believe Karen Nair will play. So they'll go with, we're just making a joke before, we were talking to Neil Manthorpe on the following on. You worry that it's going to be a batter versus bowlers, because the batters scored runs and the bowlers obviously struggled to take the wickets, but the batters dropped the catches. So I think Gautam Gambhir's way of getting around this is to pick as many all-rounders as he possibly can. So I can't imagine Thakur play. If Bumrah's not going to play, which it looks by what we're hearing from the preparation that he won't play, that's a massive, massive loss for India going into a must-need win.
Absolutely. Their tail will be stronger this time, because that was a big problem for them in the first test. I think it really cost them, didn't it? Because they were in a great position, then they collapsed, and it happened in the second innings. So,
Yeah.
And most teams 100%. Have, like Australia have a very strong tail. We've seen that often. And even England, with Wokes coming in where he comes in, it's important in Test cricket, isn't it?
Andy, it's massive. It's huge. Neil Manthorpe, who's commentated on 1 million Test matches, keeps saying lower order runs wins you games. It really does. And, India as a collective unit, I think, 430 for 3, 471 all out. England then should have been chasing 450 plus, but they collapsed again. They'll want to get it, to be fair, they'll want to get it stronger, but I don't think they can. I actually think that it might be worse. But what they're going to do is top heavy from a batting point of view and take some responsibility. So I still think Kuldeep Yadav will possibly bat at number 8. And he has got an 18 average in Test match cricket, but they'll have 9, 10, 11 who will all be equivalent of a sort of a good number 11 and a half, because Siraj averages 4, Bumrah averages 8, and Krishna averages 1. They'll probably play, or 2 of them will play, and that will still make a very, very weak India tail.
Andy mentioned Sibley getting 305. It's part of a 803 for 8.
Oh yeah, good
that
score.
Surrey have put on against Durham.
Brilliant, isn't it? It's fantastic. Do you know what? Do you know all the Kookaburra ball games is doing is increasing the chance of bowlers getting injured. Our bowlers in this country in first-class cricket don't bowl anywhere near enough, and then you have 2 stupid games in the middle of the season with a ball that does absolutely nothing, and you ask a bowler to field for 150, 180, bowling 35, 40 overs in innings.
Crazy.
The only thing it's going to do is get them injured. Madness.
Harmy, frustrating time for you as a Newcastle fan. You're trying to get deals over the line. Chelsea nick in and take João Pedro off. You just can't get anything done at the minute, can you?
We'll have said it all along about Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. Trust him to bring in players. We'll take players who want to play for Newcastle. If they don't want to play, so be it. Atike didn't come, we got Isaac, fantastic. Paqueta didn't come when we were chasing them, we got Tonali. We will get players that want to play and represent Newcastle United. And in Eddie Howe, the way he sees a player, I've got full backing and trust that we'll get the right people to come in for the 16th of August when the season starts.
Yeah,
no
that's when
worries
it
at
counts.
all.
A lot of good players around still.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Harmy, all the best. We'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, boys.
Steve Harmison there, part of our top team, bringing you cricket overseas, of course. You can watch on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel all the tests as they unfold. We'll bring you regular updates when it gets underway on Wednesday morning. I'm sure we'll build up to it tomorrow. Catch up with John Norman and the gang up at Edgbaston. But plenty of football to talk about still. We've got City in action, haven't we? And plenty of Club World Cup games to come. And live commentary overnight on that game. So it's I'm back here with Charlie tomorrow. Your return on Wednesday. And coming up next, it is Andy Goldstein and Darren Bentwood Drive. Have a good evening.